Welcome in to Check the Mic. Steve Palazzolo, Sam Monson. We're live on YouTube. It's Monday morning, Week 4 review show. Let's get to it, Sam.
Let's go.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. How about you?
Good. Kind of went out of order there.
Yeah.
So let's get to it. Then I asked you how you doing. We got a lot to get through.
Chaos.
As always, but we're gonna go game by game. Of course, starting with Thursday Night Football, which feels like a while ago, but we're gonna start with that. Don't forget. Shout out to our friends over at Prize Picks. My lineup was pretty awesome.
Yeah,
Prize Picks.
You came through with everything, right?
Yeah,
4 for 4, including Caleb Williams.
4 for 4,
over half a yard.
Caleb Williams went over more than half the yard, and I had 2 from Thursday Night Football in this Cowboys-Giants game.
Yeah,
and then the big one was I needed Travis Kelce to go more than I think it was 44 and a half. He almost got it on the first pass yesterday. I had a good feel this week.
You got all yours. I got 50% of mine. One of mine was in this game. It was Neighbors getting in the end zone. Didn't happen. Threatened to happen a couple of times in the game. And then the other one that didn't come through was the Red Rifle. 2.5 yards less than his line.
Can't do that. But it's all right. It's good. So just follow me. Follow me, everyone. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use code CHECKTHEMIC. You get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code CHECKTHEMIC. On Prize Picks, $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive that $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game. Thursday Night Football, that's where I went under on Zeke's yards, less than on Zeke's yards. Did it again. Mm-hmm. And what else did I get? Was it CeeDee Lamb?
Yeah.
Getting into the end zone. Cowboys pick up their second win, though. They're 2-2. Giants fall to 1-3. 20-15 was the score on Thursday Night Football. We'll touch on this quickly. Again, if you're not already doing it, hit the subscribe button. Be with us on YouTube. Like tonight, we have a doubleheader on Monday Night Football. We'll be going live right after, maybe in between the games. I always tease, maybe an extra show. Who knows?
And then next week, the London games start. 9:30 a.m. starts on a Sunday.
That has nothing to do with us going live on in prime time.
No, but it's just increasing the volume of games across the weekend.
Yeah,
they're everywhere.
Sleep dwindling. So Cowboys get the win, 20-15. Your thoughts on Cowboys-Giants here Thursday night?
Yeah, it was an interesting game. The Cowboys started off, and it was like an insta wide open Malik Neighbors, and you're like, how does that happen after the last couple of games that he's had? Dallas obviously pretty banged up in the secondary. They were already missing some players. You guys, there was rotation in there even during the game because of how things were happening. But a double move from Neighbors just absolutely annihilates Andrew Booth Jr. Then they did at least start dedicating significant extra help towards stopping Malik Neighbors. He finished with 12 catches, but they were at least forcing him underneath. They were at least making things more challenging and asking Daniel Jones to go somewhere else with the football. And he did, and by and large, that was going to Wan'Dale Robinson when they were forced to go somewhere else. So it was an interesting game in that Dallas did at least for the first time force the Giants into something of a plan B. And, plan B had a real shot of working if Jones could hit deep balls. Like, he actually was pretty good on everything underneath and then had multiple chances at connecting deep. And every time he took a shot, didn't just miss it, but was like 5 yards underthrown. And I don't know if this is a product of like all the injuries that he's had now, neck injuries, et cetera, that was what sapped Peyton Manning's arm when he had his spinal fusion. I don't know if that's just left Daniel Jones without the capacity to make those throws anymore, or if he just went on a run where he hit nothing. But that was really the difference in the game.
We'll talk about it in the next game, talking about the Jets. I think sometimes, in baseball they have ballpark factors. I think sometimes it's tough to throw in certain stadiums. I mean, Jones' deep ball was dying that night. Everything else was good, like you said. Wan'Dale, though, 11 catches for 71 yards. It was like 11 catches to nowhere for the most part. High-level takeaways on this one, though. Dallas finally stopped the run. They did a much better job. Mozzie Smith, career game, their former first-round defensive tackle. They played better up front. It was against the Giants' offensive line, so you say, okay, they probably should win up front compared to what they did against the Saints starting offensive line a couple weeks ago, pre-injuries, and against the Ravens. The other factor, though, Micah Parsons leaves with a late injury. DeMarcus Lawrence left in the middle of the game with an injury. Dallas is beat up.
Costly, yeah.
Yeah, so costly game for Dallas. They don't look as good as last year after seemingly not improving the team. I think for the Cowboys, it's these are the games that they dominate, right? I mean, it's like 13 straight wins for Dak and the Cowboys against the Giants, but these are the games they usually win by 2 scores. So good on the Giants for hanging tough. They're going to, they've been tough and competitive this year. But Dallas, I think, they're showing some of their weaknesses here.
Yeah, the one last note I had, NGS had a stat that Neighbors finished with 12 catches for 115 yards on 15 targets, 9 catches on 10 targets after going in motion pre-snap. So I think this is the Giants understood that, hey, look, Dallas is trying to take him away. How do we still free him up? And they used a ton of motion to still get Neighbors into space. The NGS tweet said, Neighbors' 9 receptions in motion are the most by a player in a single game in the NGS era. So the Giants looked at this and had a very clear plan to still free up Neighbors, even though he's going to be getting all this extra attention now. That's a good sign.
My point on Thursday night, too, I think both teams, the Cowboys in CeeDee Lamb, the Giants and Malik Neighbors, both teams are really good at using their playmaker, right? Using their top guy. We hear this a lot. Hey, you've got this guy on the team. You've got this elite playmaker. Get the ball in his hands. The Giants, I thought, have done a great job of feeding Malik Neighbors the first few weeks. The Cowboys, I think, when they've wanted to, have been feeding CeeDee Lamb, including out of the backfield here. There was a point halfway through the game where he was their leading rusher with 10 yards. So I think both teams do a really good job of getting their playmakers involved. I think for both teams also, complementary pieces to those guys are going to be needed to do more as the season unfolds here.
I made this point on Twitter, there was a lot made of, hey, Dallas's run defense really tightened up. The Giants couldn't really run the ball. I think we would feel very differently about that if Daniel Jones had hit any of those deep shots. They tightened up the run defense. Mazi Smith, as you said, the first glimpse really of Michigan, Mazi Smith in the NFL. That's a huge development if that continues. I do, however, feel that we would be thinking very differently about that if they had been punished by a bunch of those deep targets, which were wide open. The sort of dedication and the attention towards the run defense, it wasn't without cost. It opened up a lot deep. Now, banged up secondary, guys missing, et cetera, et cetera. But, if this run defense had come at the cost of getting gashed by a couple of big plays deep down the field, I think we would have a very different approach to how that was successful.
Maybe. I don't completely agree, but yeah, I mean, we'd be criticizing Dallas for other things, but at least the run defense was better in this one. Dallas to 2-2, Giants fall to 1-3. Dallas in second place in the NFC East because of the Commanders, who we'll talk about in about 3 hours. Anything else on Thursday Night Football?
Nope.
Got no more use for that game. We're on to the 1 o'clocks from yesterday. It was the same stadium, Denver Broncos at the New York Jets. Denver 10, Jets 9. Broncos move to 2-2. Jets fall to 2-2. All sorts of superlatives coming out of this game. A very special first half by Bo Nix with 7 completions for -7 yards. Incredible, just statistical start. And then you say nobody cares about this, but people are just making up Aaron Rodgers stats left and right. It's the first time he's ever lost a home game without throwing a touchdown. It's his first loss without throwing a touchdown. They're just making up stats and throwing them out there on social media. None of those are true, but it was Aaron Rodgers' first home loss in a game that he started and finished in the state of New Jersey. That is true.
Yeah, nobody cares about the Rodgers stats because the Denver Broncos passing stats in this game were way more funny.
Talk about them.
Well,
Let's do it.
At halftime, Bo Nix was 7 of 15 for -7 yards. That itself is hilarious. People have achieved negative passing yardage even over a whole game previously, but it's usually a stat line that reads 1 for 14, Right. You complete the one pass and it lost yardage. The fact that he completed 7 passes and they had lost yardage, and every single one of them lost yardage. The receiving stat line was even funnier because 5 different guys had caught those 7 passes and not one of them had gained yardage. That's really difficult to do. Without trying, that deliberately running everyone behind the line of scrimmage and just saying, hey, let's lose some yardage for the kick or whatever. That's actually very hard to achieve. So for a long period of time, in fact, most of the game, both offenses were just an absolute disaster. I mean, right away, Garrett Wilson coughs up the football on a shallow drag, just gets hit, ball pops out. It was rainy. I think it was a weather game. The rain was coming in showers. It wasn't constant. It wasn't, a downpour for the entire game.
Ball slipped out of Rodgers' hands at least once. I mean, you could see though it was having an effect.
It did it to Nix as well. Certainly during the downpour periods, there were times where Bo Nix basically couldn't throw the football.
It was 6-0 at half. Jets were winning. Broncos put together outstanding drive toward the end of the third quarter. 11 plays, 87 yards. Nix finished it with a touchdown to Cortland Sutton. Nix finished with 62 passing yards. He did throw the ball better in the second. 60 total passing yards, 2.4 yards per attempt. It's like the Broncos won, but it's like the second time in 4 weeks that Bo Nix has all sorts of superlatives and records for lack of yards on over a certain number of attempts. But it doesn't matter. The Broncos end up with the win. They go up 7-6. The Jets took the lead. Greg Zuerlein with a field goal to go up 9-7. Broncos finally hit the eventual game-winning field goal middle of the fourth quarter. Both teams missed other field goals with opportunities. So the Broncos missed a field goal to go up 4. The Jets missed a field goal to win the game toward the end. And then with the Aaron Rodgers finish here, he finishes 24-42 for 225. That's just 5.4 yards per attempt. Also sacked 5 times. And toward the end of the game, as he was getting sacked, starts moving a little bit slowly. They reported a potential hamstring injury, or at least, working on the back of his leg. He looked a little beat up by the end of this one.
Yeah, he did. Understandably so. I mean, the defense got after him. I think there was a bit after the game where they had questioned him on something Robert Saleh had said about, because one of the things that happened in this game is the offensive line, not only was it getting beat, but it was making mistakes. Like Rodgers hard count got his own left guard to jump at 4th and goal, down at the Denver goal line, which obviously backs him up 5 yards, like a really costly mistake. I think he got him multiple times in this game, and Saleh was basically saying, maybe we need to dial back the hard count. And this obviously is famously one of the things that Rodgers is great at, that his cadence, his hard count, his ability to get defenses to jump is one of the things that he's been fantastic at throughout his career. So this was put to Rodgers after the game. Hey, Robert Saleh says maybe we want to knock that on the head since it's caused so many problems in the game. And Rodgers was like, yeah, that's one way we could go. Or we could just hold the people accountable, right? Like, it's never been a huge problem in the past. Maybe we just hold our people accountable that jump on they know the hard count's coming. It's not like they weren't in the huddle. They got the information. You can't jump. So just another interesting element where this Rodgers coaching dynamic, like he's the quarterback. He's not just going to take whatever the head coach says, take whatever the offense coordinator says. He's going to push back. And there's another area where there's apparently disagreement.
Saw people talking about this feeling like a Zach Wilson game, right? The Jets' pass defense is giving up 60 total yards, -7 in the first half, and they're finding a way to lose. I mean, look, I don't think Rodgers played horribly by any stretch. He had 3 big-time throws in there that were just pinpoint down the field. There's a lack of rhythm to their offense that, at least in this one, obviously, the last time we saw them, it was the opposite. It was a great rhythm. They were moving the ball pretty easily against New England's defense on Thursday Night Football. The rain is a factor. The run game didn't do anything for the Jets. And just credit the Broncos' defense. I mean, I continue to be impressed by what Denver's done defensively and just getting contributions from all sorts of guys. I mean, if you guys check out the PFF grades, all part of your PFF Plus package, our friends over at PFF, a lot of green from that defense, run defense.
A lot of pressure.
A lot of pressure. They got after him. The last blitz was a great overload. It was 4th and 10. Rodgers didn't have a chance. The Jets' pass protection, their scheme was just didn't have a chance. Jets were 4 for 17 on 3rd down. As I mentioned, 5 total sacks. A lot of those were from quick pressure up front. The Jets' offensive line had issues pass blocking. And then the last one, it was just the protection scheme was just overloaded. A great overload blitz by the Broncos. So Denver's defense deserves a ton of credit for how, and they shut down the Bucs last week, and it was like, oh yeah, they just, went in and just wanted it more, or whatever. I mean, Broncos defense playing some really good ball these last couple of weeks.
Yeah. All that said, final drive, Rodgers did give them a chance with a field goal attempt. He got them from their own 35-yard line to Denver's 32-yard line, which makes it a 50-yard shot. And this is a league now where people seem to be making 50-yarders with regularity, 60-yarders with relative regularity.
Not in those conditions, though. Not in those conditions.
Instead, Greg Zuerlein appears to be the new Mason Crosby, where randomly he just kicks this knuckleball that Most kickers have this, it tracks true, it's end over end, it goes relatively straight. Zerline's kicks have always had this weird knuckleball ability where they start veering violently left to right. And there are plenty of kicks, even when he makes them, where it like randomly jumps 2 yards to the right, then hooks 2 yards back left. This one just skewed right and never came back. That was a big miss. I mean, that's a very kickable field goal to win that game. And if you're the Jets and you have, designs on winning the division, being a real playoff contender, you have to win this game.
Well, Jets fall to 2-2. Broncos, a feisty 2-2 on their own. By the way, they got their run game going much better. Javonte Williams ran the ball well. Jaleel McLaughlin, first time. Last week they showed signs of life. Did you want to talk about? You had something.
There was also a really scary situation.
Bidet.
Yeah, with Tyler Bidet, who gets it's like a weird looking shot during a play.
Broncos running back, by the way.
Yeah, seemed fine. Like went to the sideline, then apparently collapsed on the sideline. They ended up having to stop the game, put him on a backboard, et cetera, take him away. The initial reports are that he's expected to be okay. He's got feeling in all extremities, et cetera, but that was a very scary situation. I mean, that was not one
game stopped for a bit and everything.
Yeah. I mean, even when a guy is hit and immediately it's clear that there's a problem and the game stops, it's scary enough. It's somehow even worse when he kind of gets up, walks off, and then collapses after the fact.
Yeah, definitely a scary situation in this one for the Broncos. But yeah, they pull it out 10-9 here. A couple 2-2 teams. I usually don't care, but curious what Greeny's saying this morning in competition with us.
Wow.
Mike Greenberg. Yeah, I don't care normally. No, I don't. I don't care for the people that bring their fandom to the national shows, but he's probably sad. Probably sad as a Jets fan.
I would say he skews more towards angry than sad this morning.
Oh, you think so?
I do believe
so. Well, don't go check. Stay with us. Stay with us this entire show. All right, so let's, before we get on to the next game, tell you again about our friends over at Prize Picks. I, did a nice job this
Nailed
weekend.
it.
My lineup goes 4 for 4 over at Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. All you do is pick more or less than a 2 to 6 player stat projection and watch the winnings roll in. That's what I did. I picked 4. All 4 of them were good. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use code CHECKTHEMIC. $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code CHECKTHEMIC on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive that $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game. So you can win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks right now. And Prize Picks is the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy, so these lineups stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. If your player leaves in the first half and doesn't return, Prize Picks, your picks will stay live. So you can download the Prize Picks app today. As I mentioned, in the Discord, link in the description here. You join the Discord, hang out with us in the Discord. We'll have some fun with our lineups this entire season. Sam and I will each make a lineup pretty much every single week here. We just started it last week. I'm 1 for 1 so far. We'll keep bragging about that because my other game picks aren't great so far.
No,
but Prize Picks lineup,
bad week for picks.
Prize Picks lineup is solid so far. So you guys can join us as well. Code CHECKTHEMIC, $50 instantly when you play $5.
What did that return? Was that 10x your four?
I think it was 20. Can we get? I think it was 20.
Ben says 10.
10. Yeah.
You replied yes when I asked 10.
Sorry, 10. Yeah, it's a pretty solid start.
That's pretty good.
Pretty solid start.
You 10x your money every week. You're going to be rolling.
If I do that every week, we'll see. Yeah. We'll see how we do.
I mean, I
got to study the projections this week and see what we're coming back with.
But that's good return.
Yeah.
You know?
So we're having some fun over here with our friends over at Prize Picks. You can see it on YouTube.
Smooth.
When I point to it. All right, let's go Rams and Bears. Bears get the win here, 24-18. Bears move to 2-2. Rams fall to 1-3. Caleb Williams, I misspoke last night again. That's what I did. I didn't mean his first touchdown. His first touchdown at home is what I meant to say on our live stream. Caleb Williams finished as 17 of 23 for 157 with a score. DeAndre Swift with a big 36-yard touchdown to essentially seal the deal. Tough one for the Rams, who, look, if they didn't pull that off against the Niners last week, they'd be sitting here at 0-4, but they fall to 1-3 here.
Yeah, the fact that the Rams are competitive in all these games is remarkable. I mean, they are so beat up. They're
A lot of
missing
moral
so
victories.
many players. It really is. Like, and okay, they got an actual victory out of it as well. But the fact that they're fighting and clinging on and making these things difficult in any of these games is insane. I mean, I expected them to get blown out last week by the 49ers, and instead, not only did they find a way of coming back, but they actually stung them and won the game. Here, they just couldn't quite get it done. Part of it was like they had a couple of big plays that anytime they made a big play, like Jared Verse had multiple sacks negated by penalties elsewhere, those kinds of things. So, and really on offense, it's all down to can Matthew Stafford and Kyron Williams to an extent make enough freaky plays to offset the fact that they're getting absolutely destroyed and murdered everywhere else. And ultimately, they weren't able to get it done in this game. But again, like they're fun to watch despite missing everybody.
Yeah, Stafford didn't get pressured a ton, but like when he did, it came fast and furious, including on the last play. Like it did feel like when they need a big play, interior of the offensive line's giving up quick pressure. Good job by the Bears, man. I mean, their defense has done a nice job through a few weeks here. But just from a Rams perspective, Stafford under heat when they need to make a big play. Again, missing their top receivers, missing offensive linemen. There is a little bit that this is what happened in 2022. Not everybody has all that right off the top of their memory like we do sometimes, but the 2022 Rams coming off their Super Bowl, different offensive line combination seemingly every week, injuries left and right. Matthew Stafford, every time they needed a big play, felt like he was getting hit in 22. That's similar to what's happening right now. Rams defense had not really played well overall. I thought they were better in this one, a little bit better, work up front. But again, when it was crunch time, go watch. DeAndre Swift has this 36-yard touchdown. The Rams linebackers are like 10 to 15 yards downfield getting blocked. They were completely wiped out of that play. Rams made that decision. I don't know if this is the Ernest Jones trade. They made that decision to go a little bit younger, go more unproven at linebacker again. It was just one play, but their linebackers aren't playing all that great. They've got the young defensive linemen of Kobe Turner and Braden Fisk and Verse, who you mentioned, trying to find their way every single week, especially the defensive tackles, though. Just it feels like that comes back to bite them in key times here defensively. Caleb Williams, overall, I thought the touchdown was fantastic. Second read, finds DJ Moore really accurate. Something still off with anything 15, 20-plus yards down the field, though. That one was nice. Everything else feels a little just off. Thought he missed a deep ball early, too. He is trying to play within structure, though.
Yeah.
I'll give him all that. Like, Williams is trying to play within structure. I think it's still, like, just a tick late for a lot of what Caleb Williams is doing. But I think overall it'll do him well to win within the pocket first and then have those special plays hopefully complement what he's doing within structure.
It's a slow burn or a slow start for Caleb Williams, but I think you're seeing this week-on-week step in the right direction. Like every single week, we've said before, he starts off really well, with good intentions, working from the pocket, everything's smooth, everything's in rhythm, and then as the game unfolds, it slowly starts to unravel, and he ends up playing a lot more kind of sandlot football towards the end of the game. Each week, though, I think you've seen a small step in the right direction in terms of how much further or how much longer he's able to hang in the pocket and keep it together before it starts to unravel, or how much he's able to do it across the board. And I think, again, this game, more than previously, he tried hanging in the pocket, gave it an extra chance, found an extra play without having to resort to, doing what he used to do in college and just start bailing on the play and make things happen.
We're going to talk to JT O'Sullivan on Wednesday. I announced this last night. QB School will be joining us on our Wednesday show. Can't wait. We'll be talking Caleb Williams. We'll be talking Jaden Daniels, a couple other QBs on Wednesday. Can't wait to hear what JT says, because he was a big Caleb Williams fan, like a lot of us. And last week I was saying, hey, keep playing within structure, play within structure. And I believe this is the long-term play. It's the long-term play. But what I'm seeing from Williams so far is the natural feel in playmaking isn't really there. Maybe it's because he's and I think that's okay, because we're playing the long game here. Kind of hope he gets back to that. But it feels a little robotic while he's finding his way, playing within structure. Again, that DJ Moore pass, working backside and putting it pinpoint in the back of the end zone. That's a great sign. Just need to see more of that, I would say. But I can't wait to see what JT O'Sullivan has to say.
Yeah.
I did mention I wasn't trying to call out the Rams defensive tackles for yesterday. I think the linebackers had more issues, but it was the best game of the year for Kobe Turner up front and for Braden Fisk. Fisk had a strip sack in there, the rookie second rounder. So better play.
Both rookies looked really good.
Yes. I mean, Jared Verse has played really well for the majority of the season. So yeah, just stuff to build upon for the Rams, but I think there's still some plays in there, particularly at the linebacker level. That Swift touchdown really stood out.
Yeah, Verse I think has been the best of that trio of first rounders so far.
Yeah.
He's looked really good. That power that he wants to play with, that was all over his tape in college, like that translates immediately. He's able to still just run through people. He's adding some additional kind of ways to win to his game as well. Like his instant impact is impressive.
So I think stuff to build on for the Rams defense, and Bears. Shout out to Montez Sweat. He had a nice game with a strip sack, played really well against the run. Bears defense has been pretty good this year. And then look at the end, the Rams make a comeback, did not get the 2-point conversion, so they're down 9. They kick a field goal to get within 6. Matthew Stafford has a chance at a game-winning drive. Stafford's done this a ton. He's got a high volume of game-winning drives through the years because look, he's had more opportunities playing with the Lions, but game-ending interception. So the Bears, cracked down in the end. Defense did a nice job to seal the win to move to 2-2. Anything else on this game?
No.
Great,
no, Steve.
We're pacing well so far. Indianapolis Colts 27, Pittsburgh Steelers 24. Colts moved to 2-2 as well. The whole league's 2-2 like last year. Steelers fall to 3-1. It's their first loss. Anthony Richardson starts the game for the Colts, 3 for 4 for 71 yards. A couple big plays in there. Unfortunately, a couple of runs as well. 3 carries for 24 yards. First, his second run looked like he took a hit, hurt his hip, and then they call QB counter, and he gets hit again and comes out of the game. I don't know why they called QB counter when he was banged up, but it looked like he kind of collapsed. Had the old school Madden 95 hip pointer, as I highlighted last night on the live show. But Richardson comes out injured for the 4th time in his very young career.
For the 4th time in 7 starts, he's been injured in some kind of significant way.
He has a higher injury percentage than completion percentage.
That's not great. It was funny because he left the game for a play or two, having launched himself back first into Minkah Fitzpatrick on that run, right? And he came back in the game, and the first thing the commentator says, well, they're not going to run him in QB power or whatever like this. And then immediately they just they call that play. Like, what are you doing? This is the problem, right? Is that Anthony Richardson, he's built like, a Cam Newton, Superman, game-changing freak show of a quarterback. And the desire is, well, if he's going to be anything at this level, you need to tap into that. Otherwise, he's just an inaccurate pocket passing quarterback, right? So they're using that. But now, as we just saw on the screen, those 4 injuries in 7 games, like if that is his rate of injury with this approach, that doesn't work. Like, you cannot treat yourself as a battering ram if that is the outcome. Now, maybe he's just been staggeringly unlucky, right? I mean, we're just on a ridiculous run of 4 injuries in 7 starts. But that can't continue. Like, one of those 2 things needs to change. Either his injury rate needs to stop occurring at the frequency that it is, or he needs to stop launching himself into hard-hitting safeties with his back, right? That's just silly. Like, we talk about protecting yourself as a quarterback. And okay, he might want to protect himself less than a guy that weighs 205 pounds, a quarterback. But that's the type of hit where even at the time, it just looked ridiculous. You're like, what are you doing? You cannot throw yourself kidney first into a safety's head. Like, that's just a stupid thing to do.
You shouldn't do that.
You shouldn't.
I mean, those who have listened to us for the many years here, I push back around draft time when people talk about the slight frame of a quarterback or the huge frame of a quarterback, even as a big man. I think there's some size bias toward the quarterbacks for durability.
Even as a big
right?
man.
Even as a big man. Like, I'm not a more durable quarterback just because I'm 6'10", pushing 300. Yeah. Would I be more durable? I don't think so. I'd be pretty fragile. So Anthony Richardson, probably looks like a big durable quarterback, but I think durability comes down to playing style. And, Jimmy Garoppolo is slight and gets hurt a lot because I think he's bad at protecting himself. I think Lamar Jackson had a couple freak injuries in there, but overall is very good at protecting himself, never taking that straight hit. Cam Newton at some point took way too many hits.
Well, this is the thing.
Tried to do too much, and he got hurt.
So I don't know
despite having a big, durable frame. Kirk Cousins has one real injury in his career. He's slight. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't.
There's an Achilles popping on him.
Right. It's just kind of unlucky. He protects himself for the most part.
I don't know that it's always the case. For example, like Josh Allen appears to be an extremely durable, big-bodied quarterback who treats himself like a crash test dummy, right? Like, there are players who are just built out of granite. Brett Favre took 1 million hits in his career. Oh, look, I got a tweet on the
That's
screen.
your tweet.
Brett Favre was built out of granite. He took 1 million hits and stuff just didn't break on him, right? There are people who are built different, if you like, than the rest of us humans who just seem to be more durable than others. But other guys aren't, right? And you need to work out if you are one of those people. Otherwise, you can't play that way. So Josh Allen, I think, is a reasonable comp now for Anthony Richardson. Josh Allen might be the closest thing to Richardson in terms of freak show size, physicality, like unusual athlete for the position. And Allen has proven that he can get away with doing that and not leave every game injured, right? Richardson hasn't so far. You are trying to play like Josh Allen, and so far in more than 50% of your games, you are getting hurt, right? So again, either that needs to stop immediately, that run of injuries, and you've been incredibly unlucky, or you need to stop trying to be Josh Allen because it's not working, right? And you appear to be not built out of whatever adamantium construction that Josh Allen is built out of, right? That's their problem. And now they are staring down this barrel again after last year of the player that you want to create doesn't look like it's possible to create based off his injury history, right? And now you need to change completely what you're asking that guy to do.
Now, all that said, the Colts believe he'll be back for the next game.
Right.
But what you're saying is correct. Like, a big part, look, Richardson threw 4 passes. His second pass, he sailed a 5-yard quick out he overthrew it by about 10 yards. Like, it was just awful. I went back, I had to rewind it 3 times to see if it was tipped. He just missed it. He also had the big throws in there. He is so inconsistent from an accuracy.
First throw was amazing.
Yeah, first throw was unbelievable. So he's got his incredible throws. He's going to miss some of the easy ones. And the big part of, I think, Richardson's game to mitigate the accuracy is to create more of those open throws with his running ability. And if you have to dial that back and make him sit in the pocket and not have those advantages of the play action, the misdirection, because those runs were wide open too, because he's a great runner. He is a great runner, but he's got to stay healthy. So it just gives the Colts something to think about and to manage when it comes to Anthony Richardson. Now, Joe Flacco came in. For those who haven't been watching closely, you may have been surprised to see Joe Flacco as the backup to the Colts sign there this offseason. Flacco comes in, does a nice job again. Michael Pittman with 6 catches for 113 yards. Josh Downs with a huge game, 8 catches on 9 targets for 82 yards and a touchdown. Flacco ran the offense extremely well. I thought Downs was fantastic working out of the slot. Anytime they had man coverage or a mismatch against the linebacker, he was taking advantage. He was getting open against zone. I want to repeat, like, this Colts offense has a ton of potential. Very good offensive line. With Richardson, they can run it really well. They have a good back in Jonathan Taylor. And now that Josh Downs is back, what's that?
Taylor hurt his ankle. This is a costly game for Indianapolis. They expect Taylor to miss some time. They're not expecting him to be done for the year or anything.
They have Trey Sermon.
Yeah, but that's not,
I'm just saying, there's a lot of potential on this Colts offense, the playmakers that they have.
What a week ago was like, hey, look at that devastating backfield of Anthony Richardson and Jonathan Taylor. Well, neither of them are there at the moment.
Both banged up. On the other side, Steelers, I was kind of impressed by Justin Fields. He had one horrible play that he would want back, right? Takes a sack. He's trying to scramble out.
I also think that call was not correct.
Oh, the fumble?
Yeah.
I thought it was.
So he lost the ball.
He hit the ground.
Yes, lost the ball.
Got back up.
Yeah.
Then lost the ball. Then what was wrong?
So he lost the ball. So he like tried to get himself out of trouble, fell over while spacking up. Like at this point, everything's going wrong. It's a catastrophe. The defense is closing in. He loses the ball on the ground without being touched. So that's a fumble, right? It's live at that point. The ground can't cause a fumble except when it can. So the ground causes the fumble.
It can't when you're touched.
Right, but that's not the adage, right? The adage is the ground can't cause a fumble, only an incompletion. Only it can cause a fumble when nobody's there. So it's just a stupid phrase. Anyway, the ball comes out, but he does regather it and gets his hand on the ball. And at that point, I think it's in firm control.
Oh, you think he got touched?
When he got touched. And that's when they're like, anyway, then it comes out and it comes out. They're like, the replay essentially, or the official and the replay effectively adjudged that he never got it back under control. And because he lost it, it's a fumble, it's a live ball, turnover. I think he actually got his hand back on that and got it under control again, and it shouldn't have been a fumble.
Either way, it was 17-3 at the time. That was a big one. You know, the Steelers still ended up coming back. They still had a game-winning drive opportunity. Again, I thought Fields did a pretty nice job. A couple big plays down the field, 2 scrambles, 2 touchdowns, right, on the ground, scrambling. Yeah, finished with 10 carries for 55 yards. I was kind of impressed by Fields, other than the fumble play, whether it was him or not. Beautiful pass to George Pickens down the field, but then the comeback drive was just a disaster. I mean, rookie center Zach Frazier snaps the ball early. They lose 12. It's then 3rd and 22. Fields checks down. They pick up 11. It's 4th and 11. And then it was kind of a bit of an old Fields play. It's 4th and 11. I thought he had a pass at the sticks that he could have let go, and he didn't, and he scrambled around, and it was nothing. Colts shut it down. But again, Steelers fall to 3-1. I still think I have no idea when Russell Wilson's going to get healthy, but I don't think Justin Fields has played himself out of the job by any means. And
right.
I'm actually more impressed, I think, with him in a game where they were trailing the entire time, that he helped get them back into it in a pass-first situation. He had been really controlled in these low-scoring games the first 3 weeks. I thought he did a nice job bringing the Steelers back. Overall. Yeah,
and George Pickens actually, had a couple of plays that he would want back, where normally Pickens is the one guy consistently making plays, doing spectacular things and kind of raising the level. He actually had a couple of plays where he dropped the pass, fumbled the ball as well.
Drop in the end zone, right, on the really nice scramble drill by Fields.
Like, they were both really high leverage, important plays that he makes up for it a bit later. But, Pickens was not helping the cause for a period in this game. Fields throwing for 300 yards. I mean, that itself is outside of the norm of what he's been doing. I also wanted to give a shout out to Grover Stewart for one of the best individual plays of the weekend that won't really show up in any box score. The Steelers, I think, were running outside zone to the right side to Stewart's side. Off the line, he took rookie center Zach Frazier, basically blitzed him backwards so that Fields tripped over his own center. So the play is dead because Fields is tripped over trying to get the outside zone. Which, remember, that's the sort of challenging play where the quarterback from under center has to work to even get to the mesh point, right? So it's like, can Kirk Cousins even make it to his running back playing outside zone? Well, Fields couldn't because he was on the ground at the time, having tripped over his own center. And then because Stewart had blown it up so conclusively, once Fields from his knees had effectively got the ball back to Najee Harris, Harris had nowhere to go because Stewart is like right in front of him on the ground at this point. So Grover Stewart just individually completely blew up a run play by destroying the line of scrimmage.
Love that. I mean, Stewart's had. I mean, they've needed to step up with DeForest Buckner injured the last couple weeks. Colts defensive front has. Latu had 4 pressures. Dayo Odeyingbo with 8 as of right now. First run PFF. Colts defensive front did a pretty nice job.
Yeah.
Held TJ Watt to just 2 pressures. Had a bunch of other quick wins. It was a Myles Garrett-ish type of game for TJ Watt. A lot of quick wins, but no sacks in this one.
Wow.
What?
You just stoking the flames again.
There's no flames to stoke.
Just stoking them.
I was giving credit to TJ Watt.
By comparing him to Myles Garrett. The Steelers fans will consider that an insult.
I was.
Meanwhile, ironically, Myles Garrett had a TJ Watt kind of game. Yeah. Where he didn't win that much, but he got sacks.
Never know what's going to happen week to week. I did want to, so I was touting Flacco. I thought overall he ran the offense fine. Still has this knack for throwing the ball to the defense in the end zone like he did last year with the Browns and having it be dropped.
It's an unfortunate knack to have.
I mean, it's better than having them catch it.
I guess.
It's a bad knack to throw it to them, but it's good that they drop it and it doesn't show up in the box score. Overall, though, take away a couple throws. I thought Flacco did a really nice job distributing. It sounds like Richardson should be back next week for the Colts, though.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to re-emphasize how insane that play was where he got hurt on it, right? They ran the ball. He had like 10 yards of open real estate in front of him and then 2 defenders converging on him. It's the most obvious play in the world to just slide at that point, right? Hit the ground. You're not getting anything more out of this play. You're getting hit, right? So don't take the hit. Instead, he's getting dragged down by the guy chasing him from the side and turns his back into Minkah Fitzpatrick, who's like lined him up to take a hit. Like, it's the most insane play you can make as a quarterback in terms of protecting yourself. A total recklessness for your own body. And that would be fine if you had proven to be built out of stone, but you haven't been. So that's the play you can't make. Like, Russell Wilson was always amazing at this in his career, right? He would take exactly what was there and then slide, hit the ground, live to fight another day. That play was the classic Russell Wilson play, right? Every now and again, he would, the read options to Marshawn Lynch, every now and again, he'd pull one and take 15 yards and then just slide, hit the ground, right? Yeah. That's the play, right? Richardson actually has 10, 15 yards of open space. Then a hit is coming. Just hit the ground.
Yeah, I mean, just thinking back through history, I mean, when we were doing the show 5 or 6 years ago, Russ was the classic guy that we said protects himself really well.
Yeah.
And the guy that we said didn't do a good job of that was Michael Vick.
Right.
And you could say, well, Russ has this thicker body that can handle the hits, and Vick was a little bit skinnier, but Vick did not know how to slide and took way too many hits. Also always ran around so much he looked exhausted by the end of the game. But Russ was perfect at getting out of bounds, sliding, whatever it might be. I think that's what you need. I mean, very few people, to your point, can play the Josh Allen battering ram game or even Cam Newton battering ram game. Newton did it for about 8 or 9 years before he, was too hurt. But yeah, I think something has to happen with Anthony Richardson's playing style going forward. Got no more use for that game. Cincinnati Bengals 34, Carolina Panthers 24. Bengals get their first win to move to 1-3. Panthers fall to 1-3. Red Rifle still putting points up for Carolina, but just not enough. Bengals offense still looking pretty good. Neither team rushed the passer well at all in this game. Dalton was pressured just 6 times on 43 dropbacks. Joe Burrow pressured 5 times on 37 dropbacks, and we're talking under 20% for both. I mean, it was awful pass rush wise. So the offenses look pretty good, and Cincinnati gets their first win here.
Yeah, I mean, the flip side of that obviously is the pass protection. So Carolina, one of the reasons you had to bench Bryce Young is to figure out how good was your offensive line, and because you overhaul that group in the offseason. Well, Carolina's offensive line, since they got rid of Bryce Young, looks like one of the best in the NFL. In fact, if you looked at it sort of in depth previously, it still looked like one of the best in the NFL. It's just that Bryce Young was making it look worse on the field. But this offensive line appears to be really good. Now, obviously, it's how much of that is good blocking versus bad pass rush. The Bengals' pass rush generally this season has been bad. If Trey Hendrickson isn't getting pressure, they're not getting pressure as a unit. And in this game, Trey Hendrickson wasn't getting pressure.
Except on the interception. So, like, all that said, when Hendrickson did hit Andy Dalton's arm, he basically popped it up for a punt, and Bengals picked it off. That was a huge play in this game. Jamar Chase looking like Jamar Chase too on that 63-yard touchdown run.
Amazing play,
catch and run.
Yeah,
on the dig route.
Amazing play by Chase. Utterly inexcusable tackle attempt by Xavier Woods, the safety.
I wrote down on that play, is that the NFL's fault?
No, it's
is that
his
him?
fault.
Is that him being too careful?
He wasn't being careful.
The
he went for
it was bad.
He went for a kill shot hit. He wasn't being careful on the play. He went for a shot. No, he tucked his arms and launched his shoulder into Jamar Chase
and just missed.
Instead of wrapping a tackle and he hit him. He just barely affected the guy, right? That is inexcusable technique. Like, he'd actually done the hard part right, because the angle that he's coming at where Chase is working across the field and he's coming downhill from the other side of the field. That sort of direct, like two cars, passing each other on a highway, that actual direct angle towards a guy is a really difficult one to get right, because if you misjudge it slightly, he flies by you and you just look like an idiot. He'd actually done the hard part well, which is correctly identified where Chase's trajectory was going to take him, lined him up, and all he had to do was wrap tackle and take him down. And instead, he tucks his arms, launched his shoulder into him, and barely affected Chase at all, like bounced off like he'd never been hit. And then another guy makes a bad attempt at taking him down, and he ends up scampering away for 60 yards. There was a couple of attempts yesterday where it's just like the tackling technique from NFL defenders is awful, and it's problematic. And I don't know how you fix that in a world where the CBA limits practice time and fundamentals simply aren't being addressed at the NFL level. But that was awful from Woods.
You should send them some teach tape. If they can't practice, they can watch your teach tape.
You just watch it, and then a circle with an X through it.
Yeah. I mean, we're trying to get you a consulting job here, Sam.
Yeah.
So we've got the end of the game rugby plays and the little rugby tackling technique that you can provide to the league, don't you think?
I mean, any technique is better than that.
So Jamar Chase still making big plays. T. Higgins, 6 catches for 60 yards. I thought Joe Burrow looked good. Again, there was a weird interception in there. Looked awful on tape till you saw the replay. It was a miscommunication on a scramble drill with Jamar Chase. Chase was right in the area where he threw it. Then he turned around.
Yeah.
Kind of let Carolina back into it. Bengals were up 10 at that point. Another huge play in the game right before the half. Bengals, 6 seconds left. Bengals, I think, had no timeouts. Throw a swing pass to Zach Moss in the flat. And he's got to do some work to get into the end zone. And just like little plays like that add up. Because if he gets tackled, Bengals come away with 0 points there. And this game could be completely different. I know they end up winning by 10, but that was a huge play before the half and a really nice job by Zach Moss. Taking a swing pass, had to make a couple guys miss and just extend the ball and get into the end zone.
Yeah, it was a close game, and then most of the high leverage situations broke Cincinnati's way. Not all of them, obviously. We talked about that miscommunication play with Burrow and Chase. But there's the big Jamar Chase touchdown run. The Bengals had a goal line hold early in the game where Carolina had chances and couldn't get it in. Chris Jenkins and a linebacker stopped them, I think, on the 4th down play right at the end. But that, obviously is a big swing, touchdown points versus no points. The play you talked about with Hendrickson, where basically his only pressure of the day ends up knocking the ball out of Dalton's hands. So almost every single one of those big high leverage situations broke Cincinnati's way, and that's how what really was a 50-50 game ends up being a 10-point margin of victory.
2 more things to highlight here. Bengals rookie right tackle Amarius Mims gets his first start with Trent Brown going down to injury on Monday Night Football. Overall, pretty solid. Had at least one ugly rep on Burrow's interception against, I believe it was Jadeveon Clowney. And then mentioned the lack of pass rush from both teams. The Panthers, we expected this. With Cincinnati, you weren't completely expecting this, but like Sam Hubbard had 34 rushes, no pressures in this game. 4th straight game of doing almost nothing. Their third edge is Miles Murphy, last year's first-round pick. He got hurt during training camp. They need him to come back. They need something. Like if the Bengals are going to make a run, they either need Miles Murphy, they need these young players to step up, Chris Jenkins at defensive tackle, the rookie, second-year Miles Murphy, or if Cincinnati thinks they're a contender, they need to trade for someone. They need something from a pass rush perspective. Trey Hendrickson can't be the only guy that is creating any sort of pressure on the quarterback, because it's the second straight week they were struggling in the pass game here, other than DJ Turner, who had a really nice game at corner for the Bengals.
I mean, next week is probably determination for their prospects this season. Like if it's Baltimore, right, next week. So if they beat Baltimore,
just trying to take it 1 week at a time here, Sam.
Well, look, they're 1-3, which is where we said they were
Baltimore
exactly.
comes to town.
Yeah, exactly where they were a year ago. So you can go on a run from here. But if they lose and they go 1-4, you're not trading for anybody. If you win, now you're back to 2-3, and you beat your division rival, and you're sort of back in the thick of it. Then maybe you go, okay, how do we get better as a pass rushing team? Who could we trade for? But if they lose, forget it.
I mean, Joe Burrow and the offense they're playing well. Like lost in this 1-3 start is after week 1 where the offense looked horrible and they didn't throw the ball down the field at all. They're kind of back as far as moving the ball and creating explosives. The defense has to play much better if they're going to do anything, though. See what happens with the Ravens next week. I told you I went to Monday Night Football last week, thanks to our friends over at Game Time. Made it so easy for me to get to Monday Night Football. Just logged right in, saw exactly where I was going to sit. Looking through the seats, getting great deals. Had a lowest price guarantee. Had the panoramic view of the seat. Had the all-in pricing. You just toggle this feature, show the total up front. There's no surprise fees at checkout, so they made it really easy. They sent me the tickets, and then just right there on my phone, scan it, and then boom. It was really convenient, really easy. So Game Time, our friends over there make it nice and easy to get to games, get to concerts, comedy, theater, whatever it might be. The purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry, so you can take the guesswork out of buying any ticket with Game Time. And so here's the offer that we have. You can download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code CHECKTHEMIC for $20 off your first purchase. That's what I did. Got $20 off to bring Harry to the game last Monday. Terms apply, but again, create an account, redeem the code, spell out Check the Mic, CHECKTHEMIC, Check the Mic, $20 off over at Game Time, Sam.
Nice.
Really,
it's a good deal.
It's nice and easy to use. So appreciate Game Time for supporting the show. We got the Houston Texans with the win here, moving to 3-1 over the Jacksonville Jaguars, now 0-4. Man, this is a good game at the end. It was the week of the muffed punt. Texans win 24-20. This thing starts with the Texans muffing a punt inside the 5, leads to a quick, easy touchdown for the Jags. There's a lot of if you take that play away, the games change a lot. There's a bunch of those this week, but this one maybe closer than it needed to be because of that unforced error by the Texans, but they end up pulling it out 24-20 to move to 3-1, and we're back to or continuing panic time in Jacksonville, 0-4, and the losing streak continues.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely put Houston in a hole to try and claw their way back out of, which they sort of labored to more than I expected them to in this game. But Jacksonville's defense made some plays, which it hadn't early in the season. They took advantage of that sort of gift early. Brian Thomas Jr. continues to look really good for them, and he is, slowly expanding his role. I think they're asking him to do more things, but it's like how good he looks at that other stuff, right? And that, a little bit like Xavier Worthy, there are things that you can't do with him from a defensive perspective. Like, can't give him a free release to run vertically into the secondary. Just literally can't do it because that's instant problem. Brian Thomas Jr.'s speed, athleticism, like you can't do certain things. That touchdown's a perfect example. You just can't let him release to inside of your leverage and run across the end zone uncontested. He's too fast. You're not going to get that back. So
he looks good.
He does. He looks really good. It's funny because I was saying I think I said it last week, if you asked after 3 weeks what would the wide receiver rankings look like right now, it would be Chris Sims rankings. It would be Malik Neighbors number 1, Brian Thomas Jr. number 2, which seemed insane pre-draft, right? Marvin Harrison Jr., one of the best to everybody. Marvin Harrison Jr., one of the best wide receiver prospects in years. Minimum. Okay, do you want Neighbors or Harrison Jr.? There was a conversation to be had there. There wasn't really a conversation between Brian Thomas Jr. and Marvin Harrison Jr., and yet after 3-4 weeks, you would say Brian Thomas has looked better. Now, Harrison, he's banged up. He scored a touchdown right at the start of last week. It's certainly way too early to be writing him off, but point is, Brian Thomas Jr. looks fantastic for the Jags.
I want to have a Trevor Lawrence conversation.
Uh-oh.
Do you want to do that? Do you want to give the Texans their due credit first before we get into the lowly Jags and where they're at right now?
Okay.
So Texans, they earned the win. It was a little ugly, I think, from their perspective. If you're a team that wants to be a Super Bowl contender, it's a little ugly. Like I said, that muffed punt, you take a touchdown off the board for the Jags. It's a 2-score game. It was a 7-point spread in this game. I guess I'm just mad I missed my pick. I missed out on my pick because of a muffed punt.
That's what it is.
But C.J. Stroud, again, some big plays. Nico Collins, uncoverable. Stroud missed a couple overthrows over the middle of the field. But you have plays like the Texans make the hidden plays to win the game beyond the muff punt. C.J. Stroud breaking free from a sack. I think it was a 3rd down, 2-minute warning in the first half. They pick up 23 yards. That ends up leading to a field goal before the half. Stroud just making a lot of big plays. Inconsistent run game again with Cam Akers. He's running fine, but it's not the same feel back as they had in week 1 where Joe Mixon was just keeping him on schedule the entire game. But the Texans have a lot of ways to win, including Stephon Diggs scrambling for a touchdown. They have a lot of different ways to win. They got whooped last week against the Vikings, but that's what the Vikings do to everyone. But the Texans, again, find a way to win in different ways every single week.
They do. Like the Texans, again, they dug themselves a hole, but they did claw their way out of it and looked pretty good doing it. Like even it wasn't necessarily conventional the way that they got back. Like they ran this kind of trick play thing, and then Stephon Diggs just nixed it and ran it in like into the space, just read it on the fly. It was like, oh, look, it's a fairly large amount of space, seems to have opened up in the middle of the field. I'm just going to run the touchdown in, which I think was his first ever rushing touchdown for Diggs. For a guy that's...
He's a good scrambler. He's a great scrambler.
And he's always been used on sort of trick plays like that. It's actually kind of unusual that he hasn't managed to, had an end around or anything that's got him in the end zone. But anyway, yeah, first rushing touchdown, I think, for Diggs. But yeah, the Texans, they were able to ride a lot of negative in this game. They blew some plays, they gave up some, they made some mistakes, but still ended up coming out on the good side of it.
I see you admitting your wrongs on Twitter right now. So wrong about Brian Thomas Jr. He looks phenomenal so far.
He really does.
Sam Monson NFL.
And this is with Lawrence missing him a lot. So do you want to go into your Trevor Lawrence diatribe?
Yeah.
There's a double move in there where Brian Thomas absolutely annihilates the corner. Lawrence misses him in the end zone. Like he had a pretty good receiving day statistically, Brian Thomas, and it should have been a lot better. I mean, you add that to his resume, and instead of 6 catches for 86 yards and a touchdown, it's 7. Just that one play is 7 plus another, whatever it was, 40, 50 yards, and a second touchdown. Like, he looks incredible, and you're not necessarily seeing it as obviously because Trevor Lawrence is still out here missing everything.
Yeah, late first quarter, I had that in my notes. I mean, just the missed opportunities from Trevor Lawrence. Again, he's on the list of quarterbacks I want to talk to JT about because we've watched Lawrence closely through the years. And look, I thought last year there was some bad luck in there. We highlighted that a ton where he made some good throws and passes weren't caught. This year, though, the accuracy, it's so inconsistent. There's the pass, the Brian Thomas Jr. pass, that should have been a long touchdown.
Yep. Early
third quarter, they have that half roll again with the reset, and he's got Christian Kirk way behind the defense, misses him by a mile. So as much as I wanted to give the Texans proper credit and everything, but we talk about unforced errors. This is just the Jags missing. This is just Trevor Lawrence missing. And then the other part that I think is missing, they're up 3, and it's 3rd and long, and he just fires one pretty much into double coverage. Derek Stingley makes a really nice break on it. Could have been picked off. There's just something missing as far as Lawrence playing a complete game. Go back to week 1 with the Dolphins. The first half of the game looked outstanding. Beautiful red zone pass to Brian Thomas Jr. for a touchdown. Second half pretty much disappears, right? When they need him, comeback attempt, it's just not there. This game felt the same. Like the stat line through the first half looked fine, and then you look up again, it's like, oh, he's averaging 5 yards per attempt again because he's missing these deep shots. And I don't know if I have great reasons other than he looks like he's pressing a little bit. There's times where Lawrence is weird, where he will rush some reads sometimes and just miss. Like when he gets in trouble, I think he speeds up too much, and I think you're just seeing way more of that where he feels rushed. But the excuse that we made, or the reason we mentioned for Bryce Young not needing to get benched, was that the pass protection was really good. If you told me before the game, hey, Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter, the Texans' pass rush is going to be left in check, this was probably the best pass protecting game the Jags have had in a long time. This wasn't sped up because of pressure. These are, using the term a lot, unforced errors, clean pocket misses by Trevor Lawrence. It is now to concerning levels, I think, for how the former number 1 overall pick is playing.
And they had a run game. Like one of the things that has happened generally with this Jags offense is this offensive line that skews good in pass protection, bad as a run blocking unit means that sometimes they just don't have a complementary ground game. You know, Tank Bigsby had multiple big plays where he busted off a large run. Travis Etienne had a successful game. They had, 150-something yards on the ground. They were averaging way above 5-6 yards a carry. The ground game was there for Trevor Lawrence to be able to lean on in this game, and he still didn't have a good performance.
Yeah, I don't know how to best describe it. Like, remember last year I kept saying it feels like the difficulty levels jacked up to 10 for Trevor Lawrence a lot of times. And if he makes 3 or 4 big-time throws, like a 15-yard out into this tiny window, but I feel like he chooses those situations, right? He doesn't take the easy one when he's supposed to, and he forces it into a tight coverage when he's not supposed to. And sometimes it works, and it's like, wow, look at that. Good job. There's just something missing in the decision-making right now. In addition to, in this game, he missed 2 touchdowns. He missed 2 touchdowns down the field. You know, could have had 2 more completions for about 100 yards, legitimately. And that ends up being the difference in the game for the Jags, to oversimplify it. And they're 0-4. As I mentioned the last few weeks, they're playing losing football. They're not making big plays at the right time. And as you said, run game was better, pass blocking was better, things that we had made as excuses in previous games. This one, to me, is on Lawrence. Missing throws. So we'll talk to JT about it on Wednesday.
And even if it's not all on him, when you become the $55 million quarterback, the focus goes on you more. Like, you assume more responsibility because of that contract, and Lawrence has headed in the opposite direction rather than, playing better because of it.
Anything else on this one?
There was a high leverage play that went against them. The Jags went for it on 4th and goal, up 20-17. They failed in a quarterback draw, which is not a terrible call, down by the goal line. And actually, when you look at the way that the Texans were defending it and the Jags had it set up, the play was there to be made. But Fatukasi absolutely destroyed Brandon Scherf. This is another, highly paid guy, not necessarily living up to his contract. Fatukasi just destroys Scherf one-on-one inside, makes the play. Like, when you watch quarterback draws, the defensive tackle doesn't tend to make that play, right? Because the offense knows it's coming. They're generally blocking him to that outside anyway. The whole point is it's usually a passing situation, so he's rushing in the outside gap, not the inside one. The guard just has to take him where he wants to go. Instead, Fatukasi fights all the way back across Brandon Scherf's face, makes the tackle without Lawrence even getting to the second level. So really good play by Fatukasi, really bad play by Brandon Scherf. Again, big leverage play goes against the team that needed it.
They had a full yard. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of there if Fatukasi doesn't make the play.
Yeah.
But that's another thing that the Jags used to be good at. Lawrence has been really good on the goal line on QB sneaks. Remember the times that he would just...
Well, he's huge.
He is it, but he would use his reach a lot. He would just call his own number type of deal and just use his reach. But man, Jags missing 4th and 1s is another just common theme in this losing streak. Like the high leverage 4th and 1s, 4th and goal type plays that they lose, just all adding up for Jacksonville right now.
There's just they have a trend right now of like all the players that they have really big investment in. Not all the players, a lot of the players that they have really big investment in are just not living up to those deals, right?
Josh Hines-Allen left with a concussion as well.
Yeah, and he's the one that made me check myself on that statement. Like, I think he's absolutely living up to his billing, right? He's playing really well. But like Brandon Scherf is on big money. This is a guy who's a former top 5 pick as a guard. If you're a top 5 pick as an offensive guard, you are expected to be one of the best offensive linemen in all of football. The Jags bring him over. He's on big money, and he just simply has not played as a top-tier player. That's an easy block for you to make as a guard, right? I understand you're going up against a good player against the run, but the way that play is set up, that's an easy block for you to make, and instead your failure cost them a 4th down opportunity and arguably the game from that point.
All right, let's move on to Tampa Bay 33, Eagles 16. Bucks move to 3-1. Eagles fall to 2-2. Bucks took it to them early. There was a bunch of the 1 o'clock games, Sam, that were 21-0, 28-0. Bucks got up to a 21-0 lead almost immediately by like the early second quarter.
Yeah.
Then they were up 24-0. Could have been 28. It was a drop touchdown in the end zone. Eagles did what they could to come back, including a blocked extra point turned into a 2-point conversion. Could have been a massive swing in this game. It would have been a 17-point game if they hit it. Ends up becoming just a 14-point game. So Eagles, within 2 scores, but Jalen Hurts gets strip sack, kind of, thwarts any comeback attempt there by the Eagles. But yeah, the Bucs get the win, moving to 3-1, first place in the NFC South.
Yeah, effectively a 3-point swing on that play. Like going up 31-14 became going up 30-16.
Right.
Based off
and the Eagles
blocked return.
Got the ball, drove down a little bit, and then Hurts gets strip sacked. I think it was Levante David with the strip sack. It may have been a touchdown opportunity there. Hurts was trying to get the ball down the field. Huge play for the Bucs. But yeah, their offense was cooking early on against Fangio's defense.
Yeah, and one of the big reasons was Baker was back slinging it. Like, he made some absolutely perfect passes. His pass to Trey Palmer for a touchdown, perfect. He couldn't have walked it over there and placed it in his hands any more accurately.
That was a beauty.
That question, remember we talked about this before, what Baker in college is one of the most accurate quarterbacks we've ever seen, not just completion rate, but ball location, where you actually place the football on your pass attempts. That was a perfect Baker Mayfield pass for a touchdown. Their offense was absolutely cooking, but the Eagles did claw their way back into this. It looked like it was done early in the game, and then Philadelphia started to find their way back into it. They went for it on 4th and goal before halftime. They were down 24-0. They needed that play. They got it, and then right at the start of the second half, Saquon Barkley has a really big run. It's like the Eagles are not done and dusted in this. They're not buried. And then Tampa Bay just put the foot back on the gas. They were like, nope, not happening. The defense made a couple plays. Levante David got a really nice strip sack in there. And they just absolutely refused to let Philadelphia back into this game.
I want to circle back to Baker in a minute here.
Another muff punt, by the way, in your week of muff punts.
Oh yeah, muff punt. Yeah, that was why the Bucs were down. I mean, part of the reason why they were up so much, right? The Eagles handed them the ball again. Eagles just couldn't get out of their own way. Like when Jalen Hurts finally made a nice throw to Dallas Goedert in the first quarter on I think it was a little corner route, he drops it. So the Bucs they just piled on as far as their offense goes. From an Eagles perspective, context is important here. There's no A.J. Brown, there's no Devontae Smith, right? That's your starting point. Saquon Barkley has been an absolute difference maker, though. He has been. This is a very Saquon game where there's a whole bunch of runs to nothing, but then a 59-yarder. And when you can, it's been the last few weeks, right? I mean, week 1, there was 2 long runs against Green Bay. Last week, the 65-yarder, I think it was, to set things up for the Saints, against the Saints. That was what brought the Eagles back to within 10, right? They needed some big plays, and it was a 59-yarder from Saquon Barkley. There's a lot of pressure on Jalen Hurts to perform with a bunch of backup wideouts, and Dallas Goedert and Saquon Barkley. So you need Barkley to be able to make those plays. He's been a difference maker, because if you're creating 50-plus yard plays once a week, that is huge for this offense. Jalen Hurts isn't playing well overall. I just don't know how much, not having the fail-safe, not having A.J. Brown, right? Not having him. We saw it in week 1. They were kind of trudging along, boom, 65-yarder to A.J. Brown. You don't have that. You don't have the security blanket of Devontae Smith in this game, where he's been so good working the middle of the field, working out of the slot. That's tough. But Jalen Hurts, with 3 more turnover-worthy plays in this game, including the strip sack, where he's just resetting in the pocket and knows he's got to kind of rush, and Levante David strips him. There's got to be some urgency there. It's 4 straight games with multiple turnover-worthy plays from Jalen Hurts. That's how he started his career. Remember, early in his career, the offense looked better, and we were like, but he's got a lot of turnover-worthy plays. And he settled down out of that for a while, but putting a lot of pressure on himself, not having those top playmakers, but Hurts has to play better for this Eagles team.
Yeah, he does. For a while, though, it was kind of impressive how they were able to get any offense going. Basically, you look at what they've got left. It's like they have Dallas Goedert and they have Saquon Barkley, the end, right?
I know. I want to make sure the context is there. Like, I understand it's a difficult situation.
And it's like they somehow are able to make this work just feeding those two guys. Like, they only have two players left, and the offense is working just by feeding those two guys. It's actually quite impressive. And, you know, part of this is kind of their own design, right? Like, one of the things people flagged heading into the season is, okay, they've got A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Those guys are really good. What happens if one of them gets hurt? They get thin quickly, and both of them got hurt. So in this world of, hey, Howie Roseman can do no wrong, like, how does he do it again? Look at this perfect roster. That was kind of a design that this is a very thin wide receiver room, and both of their top two guys are hurt. So to an extent, this was a risk that they assumed voluntarily. But, yeah, Jalen Hurts, minimum, whether or not you can say this is a product of losing your top two wide receivers or not, at the very minimum, you can say his reaction to throwing to guys that he's not used to throwing to is a dramatic increase in his own volume of mistakes.
Yeah.
That itself is problematic, whether or not it's the cause or it's just incidental. Like, Hurts is making way more mistakes than he can for this offense to function.
I get that they go hand in hand, but some of them are just bad red zone decisions too. I'm talking about the totality of the season here.
Yeah,
that have nothing to do with who you're throwing to.
Right, and there are quarterbacks that can lose receivers and still not explode with a volume of turnover-worthy plays. Like, it doesn't. They are connected, but it's not like an automatic reaction to losing your best receivers. Is well, I'm just going to turn into a turnover machine now. Then.
I just want to touch on this Baker Mayfield game again. He finishes 30 for 47. There's 5 drops in there as well. It was the lowest average time to throw of his entire career, 2.17. And then even if you take away a couple negated plays, it's 2.08. That is, for almost 50 dropbacks, a crazy fast number.
Right.
And that's not all screens. That is back foot hits. You are getting rid of the ball. The Bucs clearly had a game plan that looked like last year, which was the Eagles' defense is struggling in space. They're not tackling well, and that's exactly what it felt like. I was so wrong about this one, Sam. When you questioned me about, you saw one good game from the Eagles' defense and you think they're back, and I said, yeah, they're back. They're not back. This looked like last year's Eagles' defense. Middle of the field is open. They're not tackling well. The angles are horrible, but the Bucs deserve a ton of credit, man. They do have this receiving core where Chris Godwin was making a ton of plays. He had 4 first downs. Mike Evans had 6 first downs, had a couple drops in there too. So again, it could have been even better. Baker had a big time throw that he ended up dropping. Cade Otton was making plays over the middle of the field. Sterling Shepard comes in, a former Oklahoma teammate of Baker Mayfield, right? Were they teammates? Did they cross over for a little? I think they were. Sterling Shepard making plays, but yeah, the Bucs offense just getting the ball in space, making the Eagles defense look really bad in this one.
Yeah, and to be clear, so people have sort of questioned where was the Eagles' pass rush. When your average time to throw is 2 seconds,
it's impossible.
They're never going to get pressure.
You can't do it.
Now, I will say that if you look at just the plays where the time to throw was 2.6 seconds or longer, they still didn't get a ton of pressure. So there was a very few plays or occasions where he did hold the ball longer than that, and they didn't make a huge impact. But when the guy is dropping back that much and the average time to throw is basically a hair over 2 seconds, the pass rush is not going to have any impact, almost regardless of who it is. 2 seconds is simply not enough time to get a consistent source of pressure from anybody. It could be, the 4 horsemen. They're not going to get that kind of pressure. The fearsome foursome, the purple people eaters, not happening. So, the people that are like, where was Jalen Carter this week? No, it's not going to, he never had a shot.
A lot of debate around Tampa Bay about getting Bucky Irving some more carries and maybe stealing from Rachaad White. Doesn't get more balanced than this, Sam. Both Rachaad White and Bucky Irving finished with 10 carries for 49 yards. Bucky did find the end zone right before that blocked extra point, but kind of get that two-headed monster going of running backs. Both guys looking pretty good in this one, but Bucky, man, he brings some shiftiness to this offense. When you have all those receivers and you get the 2 running backs out of the backfield, they are tough to cover. And it was a huge bounce back for the Bucs after they looked pretty bad last week against the Broncos at home.
Yeah, huge game for them. They looked very impressive. We also got a few monstrous Vita Vea plays in here again.
I was thinking of you watching those.
And yet again.
And then you go back and see the grades. Like, why is it not a 95?
Exactly. Again, the totality of it. I tweeted, Vita Vea's highlight reel is the best player in the NFL. It really is. His high-end plays are utterly unrivaled, and yet it doesn't sustain for 40 snaps in a game. It's unbelievable.
Anything else on this game?
Credit, we mentioned him before, the strip sack, but Levante David was insane in this game. Again, like his ability to sustain elite all-pro level play at his age is remarkable.
It is unbelievable. All right, we got a couple more 1 o'clock games, but first, we've had an amazingly fun first few weeks of the season here over at 33rd Team with our friends at Locker. If you love showcasing your NFL knowledge with some skin in the game, Locker is a must-have in your gaming arsenal. Locker contests combine the strategic elements of DFS with the thrill of sports betting into an exciting new game format. It's simple to enter and easy to learn. Locker contests allow users to test their wits by answering questions in real time during live NFL games, with the goal being to accurately predict the upcoming action on the field. By correctly answering straightforward game-based multiple-choice questions, such as which Lions player will have the most receiving yards on the next drive, or what will be the result of the Seahawks' next drive, users can earn points and move up the leaderboard in pursuit of cash prizes. Many contests are hosted by Locker's exclusive partner network of athletes, celebrities, and influencers like Sam. With chat functionality embedded directly into the app, users can directly engage with the contest host as well as other participants. So sign up for Locker through 33rd Team. Use code 33rd, and you'll get a $50 deposit match. Join today and discover an entirely new and unique way to cash in on your NFL viewing experience. Again, code is 33rd, $50 deposit match. Come join Sam and I as we play along with our friends over at Locker. All right, what do we have here? I lost it. Saints and Falcons. Falcons get the win here. Another muff punt game.
Yeah.
Blocked punt game, really. Falcons 26, Saints 24.
This was what, blocked punt? This is like a Rashid Shaheed muff right over the shoulder. Just drops it.
Oh, that's what it was. I'm sorry. Muff punt touchdown for the Falcons. They also had a tipped pick six against Derek Carr.
Right.
It was the week of the muffed punt.
This one,
literally every muffed punt caused me to lose my game pick. Let's see. Texans, I lost that one, lost this one, and what was the other? It was the other bad muffed punt.
I mean, the Eagles had that muff punt. So there were it was an interesting scale of, because usually when you muff a punt, there's some kind of mistake from the return man, right? But not in all cases. So the Eagles was an interesting one because the return man, I think, was actually entirely blameless. It was Mustard, Cooper Dijon, who his own...
he blocked him, yeah.
Yeah, his own, vice launched the gunner into him, right? Which is one of the few ways where it's not illegal to basically take out the return man, is if you're pushed into him, it's not a foul, right? So the punt returner, I think, in that case, was entirely blameless. Then you had one we'll get to later, the Vikings, where that was a mistake from Jalen Naylor, I think, as the punt return guy. And then this one with Rashid Shaheed, the most inexcusable of all of the muff punts, where he is trying to field this ball over his shoulder at about the 5-yard line. Like, what are you doing? Leave it. Get away. Like, that would be bad if you were in perfect position.
That's where you yell, fire, fire, fire. Right?
If you were in perfect position, looking to feel that ball, just coming out of the sky, it's already a bad idea fielding it inside the 5. Like they tell you, put your heels on the 10-yard line, don't back up, essentially. He's on the 5 trying to field this thing, and he's not in perfect position. He's backing up, running towards his own goal line, trying to field it over his shoulder. It's just a catastrophic error. Like, what are you doing?
So the Saints scored touchdowns on their first 2 drives. The Falcons didn't have a touchdown drive in this entire game, just 4 field goals. They had the muff touchdown, the pick 6. So just a weird game overall. Falcons, man, they moved to 2-2, needed this one. Saints, it felt like, missed opportunity for a team that looked like a powerhouse through 2 weeks. Kind of, had a dud last week against the Eagles, but it was a golden opportunity if they don't make those mistakes, kind of have a little bad luck on the tipped interception. The game-winning drive, Kirk Cousins' 30-yard defensive pass interference by Paulson Adebo on Darnell Mooney to put the Falcons into field goal position for the win. This was after the Saints took the lead with 1:04 left, right? So you got 1:04 left. Can Kirk do it again? Can he lead the comeback? Been an uneven game for this offense. And They do it. I hate when it happens through pass interference. I mean, there's a legit call, but I hate when it happens through pass interference. You go back and you look at the game-winning drive, and it's like no completions, and there was like a 5-yard completion, a 30-yard pass interference, and then 3 more incompletions, and then Younghoe Koo just kicks, what was it, 59-yarder? What was it? 58-yard field goal for the win.
Yeah.
So good job by the Falcons.
Yeah, and the Falcons' playmakers all look really good in this game, with the exception of Kyle Pitts, ironically. Not ironically, at this point it's fittingly. I mean, Kyle Pitts.
Catches.
Yeah. Everybody else, though, looks good. Like Drake London, still a really good player. Like Darnell Mooney was amazing in this game, had a bunch of opportunities in addition to the ones that he did get. Kirk Cousins hit him with a really nice pass down the sideline at one point. It was a big play. Ray McLeod, who was the guy that Zach Robinson had kind of brought over, seemed to really like him. He's become a big part of the offense. That backfield of Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier. And look, Bijan is incredible as a talent. But
Algier is really good, man.
Right, but Algier's a really good running back.
Algier comes in, and they were feeding him in the second half. He had 8 carries for 60 yards. Every game I watch the Falcons, I'm thinking they've got 2 legit backs.
Yeah.
And I love Bijan Robinson. I love watching him play. I think he's so smooth, good fit for what they do. They're feeding him in the pass game. He had 4 catches for 46 yards. But Algier is really good as well.
Algier averaged 5.4 yards per carry after contact.
Yeah.
Like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, there was a lot of runs that should have been 3 and 4 yards that he turned into 8 or 9.
Yeah. So this, like, complete collection of skill position players, again, without Kyle Pitts, who's doing nothing still, is actually looking really good. And then Kirk Cousins, I think, incrementally, week on week, is getting better and is getting a better idea of, A, what he's capable of. And I think maybe – I don't know if you're reading too much into individual plays here or there, but I don't know if the arm is coming back a little bit. But like that drive, the pass to Darnell Mooney down the sideline, that's one where he was able to step in. It is outside the numbers. It's not, an out route outside the numbers, which was really where that arm strength or lack thereof was showing up. But it was a throw that I don't know he necessarily had in him a couple of weeks ago that was there in this game. But I think generally that collection of new group of skill position players, largely new coordinator in Zach Robinson, new quarterback coming off a busted Achilles. There's a lot of stuff to try and pull together to figure out what this offense is going to be over the course of the season. I think we are seeing it slowly, step by step, come together.
From a Saints perspective, tough to not look at this game as the missed opportunities. You got the muff punt, and bad luck. Tipped pass, not trying to take anything away from the Falcons. Tip pass interception. Peyton Turner from the Saints has a strip sack on Cousins as well in the pocket. Not a great job by Cousins. Ball security-wise, Falcons fall on that one. Bunch of plays, that could have gone either way there that end up going the Falcons' way that I'm highlighting here. The other thing that is concerning for the Saints, the most dominant offensive line in the league from the first 2 weeks, dealing with some injuries right now. Eric McCoy is not playing. Landon Young is in there playing. Those were the Shane Lemieux at center, Landon Young at guard. Like the replacements, the worst pass protecting outing from the Saints this year, and from those 2 guys in particular. The Falcons, we mentioned in the show, coming into in the preview show, one of the worst pass rushes in the NFL. They showed signs of life doing it against the Saints backups. So that would be like the one concern, I think, if you're the Saints. They play Monday night in Kansas City next week. That offensive line is going to have some issues against Chris Jones and company if they can't shore it up. But Alvin Kamara still looks great. I mean, you talk about the Falcons playmakers. The Saints playmakers also look fantastic. And Derek Carr still playing pretty well. But, yeah, not having that dominant offensive line from the first 2 weeks, I think, came back to bite in this one as well.
Yeah, and even the line, like it had a couple of plays where it did what it did the first few weeks and just destroyed the group in front of them, like Taysom Hill's second touchdown.
Talise Fuanga?
Yeah, when you look at the blocking there. They absolutely wrecked shop, and Taysom Hill was able to just walk it in.
Fuanga had a second-level pancake on a linebacker on that one. By the way, losing Taysom Hill, too, he came out due to injury. I mean, there's something to what he's adding to the offense this year as well.
But the broader point is that offensive line, for the first couple of weeks, every play in the run game looked like that. Now, Atlanta's run defense actually won their fair share. Like Troy Anderson had a bunch of really nice plays at linebacker. Matthew Judon had a couple of plays where he wrecked the play as well. Like that offensive line was more 50-50 on its dominant display versus the run defense dominant display. So forget pass protection. Like we were talking about, being able to keep teams out of those pass rushing situations was a big part of their success in the first couple of weeks. Now even the run plays are not functioning as much with those backups in there.
Do you have anything else on this game?
No, it was a light one.
That felt dense, though. I feel like we talked about a lot of stuff.
Yeah, but
I thought that was good.
Tight game.
Tight game. I thought it was good.
Yeah.
Both teams 2-2 now. The Falcons have to turn around and play Thursday night against the Bucs. That's a fun game. Thursday night football.
Huge win for Atlanta. I mean, getting to 500, given the start that they had and how bad it looked right out of the gate, I think it's impressive and important for them. Like if they had come out of this 4-game stretch either with 0 wins or 1 win, things would be very bleak for Atlanta. But actually they're getting incrementally better. They've got themselves to 500. Nobody's run away with the division yet. They got one of the wins against a team that could have run away with the division based off their start. Like, it hasn't been great for Atlanta, but the results, I think they'll take that at this point.
All right, let's go to Minnesota Vikings. Last 1 o'clock game here. The Vikings 31, Packers 29. Vikings move to 4-0 on the season. Packers move to 2-2. Jordan Love did make his return for the Packers. Finishes with 4 touchdowns, 3 picks in this one. Sam Darnold, another good stat line. We'll talk about that in a minute. But Vikings got up early. This felt like Georgia-Bama, Sam, as I mentioned last night. 28-0. The Vikings by the middle of the second quarter. Packers kept creeping back into it. Got within 2 at the end, but, onside kick, and this game was over. But 31-29, Vikings now 4-0.
Yeah, every week there's a game I have that has significantly more notes than any other game. And this is it this week.
Let's give it its due time.
Well, so a lot of things early in this game. Like it was really 2 or 3 different games in one. Like Darnold got away with one early. Like he had a bad mistake in there, didn't get punished for it. Immediately, though, you saw the instant impact of Jordan Addison being back in the game. Touchdown right away. He had another one on a run as well where he sidestepped Keyshawn Nixon, made him look ridiculous. Walks in for a second touchdown. Like, remember, the Vikings have been doing this in the first couple of weeks without Jordan Addison, who should be their number 2 wide receiver.
He looks so good.
And they don't have T.J. Hawkinson yet. He's on his way back as well. Like, they are 4-0 now. They've been stomping people, at least for most of the games. And they haven't had 2 of their top 3 wide receivers, or 2 of their top 3 receivers. Yes, Justin Jefferson is there, who might be the best receiver in all of football and one of the best all time. But still, doing it without number 2 and number 3 in where you want to go with the football is quite impressive.
Can I follow up on that first part there?
Uh-huh.
The Vikings are the fan base that probably have we've been having fun with a lot. Haven't had a lot of angst against a lot of fan bases. They're the fan base that wants the most credit so far. They're 4-0, Sam.
They deserve quite a lot of credit.
They deserve a ton of credit. They want Sam Darnold to get proper credit. But what you mentioned before, that first drive, there's a dropped interception on second down.
Yep.
Next play, loved the play design by the Vikings. Kevin O'Connell, they chipped both edge rushers. Beautiful pocket for Sam Darnold. Hit Jalen Naylor on a 31-yard touchdown. Just talking about like early in the game to get up 28-0. The turnovers that the Vikings forced, the turnover that the Packers didn't get. I mean, that was a big part of it. Darnold did get away with that pass, had a later red zone interception in there. The strip sack, you could say, was that on him? You got to see the cornerback, know that he's blitzing, get rid of the ball quicker. There were a couple bad plays in there. I also thought Darnold made some great plays in this game well. But you just, like, to get up 28-0, they needed a few things to go their way.
Sure. So, if you look at the box score numbers, you're like, it was another really good game from Darnold, right? What are we, 20 for 28, 275 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, which ends up with a passer rating of like 125 or something, right? So the box score, you're like, Darnold did it again, another phenomenal game. That's 4 games, new uncharted territory, never seen it before. This is the first of the 4 where I think if you're play-by-play analyzing, or if you're going through and sort of tabulating box score versus performance, this is the first one where I think his performance was not as good as the box score.
But it
didn't matter.
My rebuttal on that, though, is I think it was like the 3 turnover-worthy-ish type of plays, two clear, distinct ones. One, maybe the strip sack. I think other than that, he played really well.
Yeah, but that's like
I know it's
Darnold.
I understand that. But I thought other than that, there was also a lot of good plays in there. Some high end, like the deep out again to Jefferson when they were trying to, shut things down. Also, the Vikings pass protection was fantastic. It was pristine. They deserve a ton of credit as well. So again, I wouldn't, it's not like a trash Darnold game, but they just got away with a couple things. Or, a red zone interception that allowed the Packers back into the game.
Right. And I'm not saying Darnold was garbage. I'm just saying that this is the first game where he wasn't as good as the numbers would say. Right?
Fair.
If you're looking at the box score, you just be like, it's another outstanding game from Darnold. I don't think this one was, right? For example, that first turnover-worthy play, it's a 0-0 ball game right at the start. Darnold rolls out to the left, just doesn't see the defender sitting there on the sideline, tries to find a receiver coming the same way as he is, throws the ball. It's right in the hands of the linebacker. If he catches that, the Packers have the ball to start the game. Maybe they go up first and it's a totally different game, right? Instead, guy drops it, the Vikings score, and nobody remembers it because it didn't happen. It was early in the game, and 78,000 different things happened after that play in this game. So I just think this was the first game where Darnold's performance wasn't as good as his numbers would say it is. Elsewhere in the game, the other quarterback, Jordan Love, comes back. His knee did not look good early in the game. He's like hobbling around. He's not looking as smooth as we expected him to. Didn't seem like he could really step into those throws and drive off that knee. I actually was wondering, given how the game was going early, if they should have made a switch and like taken him out and put in
when they're down that much. Yeah. To just keep him healthy. Right?
Yeah, just like this game's going away, it's ugly. They're getting absolutely whooped. Like Darnold had 2 touchdowns in the first quarter. That's 2 or more in every game so far this season. Kamir Grugier-Hill again with interception. That dude's been on fire the last couple of weeks. Vikings linebacker.
Dude, just Mr. First Quarter interception guy.
Yeah, like things were just going terribly. Like Dontavian Wicks had a really bad drop on 3rd and 13. Wicks had a few bad plays in this game. 2 different Green Bay receivers made a mess of a pass for the Jordan Love interception. And at that point in my notes, I'm like, this is an absolute paddling. Like this game's out of control already. Paddling. It's done, right? And then the whole thing hinges on the muff punt, the week of the muff punt. And so it was a bad mistake by Jalen Naylor. And initially I was like, it was a bit like the Rashid Shaheed one. You're like, just get out of there. If it's coming, in a different, it's an awkward angle, it's over your head, whatever, just get out, let it bounce. Having said that, he was actually quite a way out. What I hadn't factored in last night in my sort of instant reactions to this is what an absolute howitzer of a punt it was from Ireland's own Daniel Whelan, of course.
Of course.
This thing traveled like 65 yards in the air. So one of the reasons why Naylor is trying to field it at an awkward angle, like over his head, backing up, is that he'd already backed up like 15 yards to field this thing.
As the chat reminded us last night, too, the backup punt returner.
Yes.
For Brandon Powell.
Which I don't know was a huge factor here, but I think that the absolute like weapon of a leg that this punt was kicked by was a real factor. I mean, this thing genuinely traveled more than 60 yards in the air. And the punt returner is backing up a distance, and even right at the end realizes he hasn't backed up quite far enough, tries to field it with his hands right over his head, and just can't make the play.
Yeah, this game was wild. In the Packers' comeback attempts, Tucker Kraft had a beautiful touchdown. Dontavian Wicks, again, that touchdown to make it 31-29 over the middle of the field. I mean, Brian Flores' defense caused all that havoc early on, but there were also some holes in that defense as well. Wicks' first touchdown, he was wide open, complete miscommunication by Vikings DBs. I'm not saying it's over for the, Vikings D and Flores. When you're in this, when you're up 28-0, you have those games where it's not like garbage time, like you're not changing your play calling, but the offense is trying to create chunk plays more and more, and so sometimes you give up some bigger plays, and I think you saw that from Minnesota's defense in this one.
It is dangerous sometimes. It sounds ridiculous, but it is dangerous when you get up big early, because the whole game changes where the offense on the opposition now is only interested in aggressive, deep shot plays, right? And those are obviously the most dangerous, high leverage plays for a defense. So your approach tends to be to kind of soften up and, just let's, not get beat by a bomb, which can lead to you just getting repeatedly gashed by not even paper cuts, but like the next level up, right? Like death by 1,000 small, awkward, annoying stab wounds, right? It's not a paper cut. It's more significant than that, but neither is it a death blow every time, right? Like you're just death by 1,000 slightly irritating but quite damaging stab wounds. And that's what was happening in this game. Like very early on. I mean, before the punt return thing, like the Packers are slinging it to the end zone on 4th and 10, right? Those types of plays. And that's like in the first half. And this is the entire second half is that.
It can go both ways, right? It could remain a blowout if a few of those high leverage plays go the defense's way.
And in particular, if the team that's trying to come back is just not very good, those aren't going to work. But when the team that's trying to come back is led by a very good offensive mind with a very good talented quarterback and has quite a lot of receiving weaponry, when they are playing 35 minutes in that type of mode, they're going to make a lot of plays.
Where I want to give Minnesota a ton of credit. Green Bay is down 14. Tucker Kraft touchdown, which is a beauty, to get within 8. They go for 2 to get within 6, right? That classic, you're down 14, you score a touchdown, you actually want to go for 2 to get within 6. If you don't get it, you're still down 8, you're going to go for 2 again. But you get within 6. I mean, that's when it starts to get a little scary if you're a Vikings fan. And the Packers, now they're a touchdown away from winning this thing.
Yeah.
And Minnesota comes back. It's like we call this the shutdown inning, Sam, as a pitcher.
Do we?
Right? When your offense scores, you have to come back and you have to have a shutdown inning. The inverse of that is in football. When your defense gives up the score, gets it within a score, your offense now has to respond. And the Vikings offense responded. This is why I'm saying Darnold maybe throw for throw when you add it all up. There were some bad ones in there. But when they needed him, beautiful crosser to Justin Jefferson, hits him in stride. There was a wide open, shallow cross to Justin Jefferson. Packers defense was awful on that one. Before you know it, they're into Vikings territory. They kick a field goal to make it the 9-point game. But just that response drive, I thought was huge for the Vikings. They did that in the 49ers game. When the Niners started to come back, the Vikings had the response drive. They deserve credit for those as well to just make sure, hey, this comeback attempt is not happening here.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, this game was very similar to the Philadelphia-Tampa Bay game, except the difference between the two teams, the one is Tampa Bay was able to put their foot back on the gas much earlier than Minnesota was. Like Minnesota in the second half in this game really struggled. Forget what was happening on defense, the dynamic we just talked about, but their offense in the second half, I think when interception, punt, fumble, or fumble, intercept, like that was the 4 drives to start the second half was that. I forget the exact sequence, but they basically got nothing going in the second half. They went from scoring almost every time they touched the ball in the first half. Then when the team starts to creep back in, Tampa Bay was able to just go, all right, we're going to keep scoring, and then that'll eradicate that. The Vikings weren't able to do that until it got really close at the end, and then they did show up in a couple. Like they got a field goal on a drive that was really important just to get something on the board. There was a huge 3rd and 12 play where nice throw by Darnold, phenomenal toe tap by Justin Jefferson on the sideline to get that.
I'm saying that one, like another deep out that he hits.
Yeah. It was like that.
But Jefferson's play was incredible.
It was like the Stroud to Nico Collins play, whenever that was, week 1 or 2. Same kind of idea, right? 3rd and 12, everything, really need this play. Absolutely. I mean, that play, Bill Belichick called that the greatest pass he'd ever seen or something ridiculous, right? Like, same idea. This was, and I think this one again, I can't remember which way around. Like, there was just a great play by both Stroud and Collins the first week. This one, the catch by Jefferson was ridiculous. Like, him getting both feet in on that play was insane. But yeah, like, absolutely credit Minnesota for making those plays at the end, because it would have been easy once things had swung back in Green Bay's direction, once they got the touchdown, once they got the 2, like, ton of pressure. It would have been very easy to just not execute another drive and give them another shot and really have put yourself in a position to lose this game. And they didn't. They did what they needed to do to win it. Still, it's like it felt like this game should have been done and dusted.
Yeah.
Like significantly before this.
Just want to sum up the Vikings really quickly. Jordan Addison comes back, 29-yard receiving touchdown, 7-yard touchdown on the ground as well.
Yeah.
You have him with Justin Jefferson. You mentioned T.J. Hawkinson coming back at some point. Aaron Jones has been a fantastic addition. You have Brian Flores in his bag 4 weeks into the season as far as calling plays, and they just defeated the 49ers, Texans, and Packers, 4 teams who were all in the final 8 last year. I mean, they're in a really good spot sitting here at 4-0. Just a matter of, I think, Darnold continuing. I mean, getting away with some stuff, but Darnold playing clean football. Flores staying a step ahead of offenses. Again, there were some bad plays in there as well during the Packers comeback, but a lot of good pieces in Minnesota that are playing really well, and they just won 4 straight, but 3 straight in particular against some pretty good teams.
Wanted to give a shout out to Byron Murphy for the Vikings. He had a couple of really big plays in this game. He had the pass breakup on that 4th and 10, which felt like the nail in the coffin before the muff punt almost started the rot and let Green Bay back in. But that was 4th and 10 at the goal line. He gets up and breaks it up and really sort of goes, all right, that's it, done. And then he had a peanut punch on Tucker Kraft late in the game where, again, the Packers are trying to come back. Just another one of these, like the accuracy defenders have now with those peanut punch plays to knock the ball out is insane. Kraft is there in the flat, has the ball. He lines him up and you think he's about to try and tackle a guy way bigger than him. But he lines him up and he's tracking where the ball is to just punch it out and force the fumble.
My favorite inaccurate peanut punch was whoever tried it. I think it was the Chiefs last year against Justin Fields and the Bears and punched him in the face.
Yes.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
Sometimes you miss the peanut punch and you punch a guy in the face.
The other thing that was funny about this game and illustrates why there are just so many notes in it is...
You're still going, huh?
Well, this game didn't go to overtime and was still going when the 4:25 p.m. games kicked off.
It's always one game.
Sometimes there's an overlap, with the 4:05s, but 20 minutes later, it's wrapped up and we're good. This game was still going despite no overtime deep into the 4 p.m. window.
As a YouTube TV user, it's really difficult because I need my 4 o'clock multi-view to start, but it doesn't include the 1 o'clock games. It's just a lot of maneuvering there. There's a lot of maneuvering. You can't just ignore it. It's still a 1-score game. A lot going on there. All right, we done with this one?
Yeah.
We're on to the 4 o'clocks now. Kansas City Chiefs 17. Los Angeles Chargers 10. Chiefs move to 4-0 on the season here. Chargers fall to 2-2. Chargers got up 10-0 really quickly. Really nice first drive for a touchdown. Patrick Mahomes throws his annual first quarter interception. Weekly first quarter interception. Chargers were up 10-0. Then that was it. Didn't score after that. Big loss for the Chiefs, though. Rashee Rice on the interception. ACL, is that official? Gets injured on the return. They're expecting it to be an ACL.
Yeah. I was going to, at some point, I hate this recent trend of let's interview the coach during the game, right? It's adding, and I was going to, whenever I brought it up, it was going to be it adds nothing. Nobody's ever said anything interesting in this game. And generally, they're not even asked anything interesting, right? Unfortunately, Rashee Rice gets hurt, and they then ask Andy Reid about it, and he does actually give some information where he said, nothing official, but it doesn't look good. Essentially, if you know that already, it's bad. So yeah, his knee is probably done. He's probably done for the year. But it was so you had that where you got the one interesting piece of information. Meanwhile, in the Minnesota Green Bay game, at one point in that game, which we didn't even talk about, LaFleur lost his goddamn mind on the sideline and got flagged for it because he called a timeout and the official just ignored him. He actually was right up in his face, calls a timeout. Just let it play on. So he absolutely lost his shit, completely off the rails. The get back coach, he's got a challenge at that point, right? The guy's losing his mind, and he let it. The moment was too big for him. The get back coach didn't do his job. He didn't get him back until it was too late. The flag came out. LaFleur's been flagged. Do they ask him about that? Nope. Let's interview Matt LaFleur after that's happened and not even bring it up. Hey, Matt. What happened when you lost your shit and you got flagged?
Matt, looks like you lost your mind there.
Instead, it's just, how do you get back in this game, Matt? Come on. If you're going to interview him, you have to bring that up.
Meanwhile, the Ravens had an injury timeout, and then John Harbaugh calls a timeout, which you're not allowed to call back-to-back. Uh-huh. And they granted it to him, which means it's a penalty.
Yes.
And it's one of the funniest rules in sports because they go, Terry McAulay, he doesn't have to grant that, right? He's like, nope, but because he did, it's a penalty.
Yeah. And in fact, he should ignore him.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you call a timeout back to back, the ref is supposed to ignore you.
Yes.
But on the chance that he forgets to ignore you,
instead of penalty,
you get a penalty.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I forgot to ignore you. Penalty.
I mean, we talk about this all the time. You know, NFL officiating is generally not amazing. This felt like a particularly crappy week for officiating.
Do we need Dean on Wednesday? Do we have enough questions for Dean?
It's just why is things so bad? Like down all the way back in Thursday Night Football, they called a face mask penalty on the wrong team, and apparently New York just let it go. Yeah, that's unfixable.
We have JT Wednesday. It could be a good one for Dean with the. So we get the face mask. We have LaFleur calls a timeout. They don't give it to him. Harbaugh calls a timeout that's supposed to be ignored, and they do give it to him.
I don't even know that any of these are questions, though. It's just, here's the crazy thing that happened in NFL officiating.
Yeah, but it's more like we want Dean on the show. Like, here, bash the other officials.
My only question
bash the officials for us.
My genuine question would be, in an island game with 78 people in a room in New York monitoring every play, we can't get the ref on the phone and say, hey, dude, you called the penalty on the wrong team, jackass. We can't fix that in 40 seconds before the next play starts?
I think you should.
I think we should be able to.
One thing I didn't realize, did you catch that the Bills had hired John Parry as a consultant?
I didn't know it was John Parry. I know they were talking about having hired somebody to work on officiating and including when to challenge, apparently, was part of that.
I mean, I don't know exactly what that is, but I mean, you're probably in there looking. You're probably getting the perspective of an official being like, what's the psychology of, like, can they overturn this? And I mean,
teams
you're
also
getting a different perspective than just like the analytics guy who's up there and be like, I think he's got 2 feet in.
Well, teams also do a lot of work on, like, here's what this crew calls more or less than other teams. Here's how they approach, those types of things.
I think it's really smart. I mean,
sure.
Teams are opening up the consulting gig. I mean, you as a rugby consultant, me as just a personnel consultant, like all these things should be open to us now if they're hiring John Parry to help with officiating.
At the risk of taking this podcast all the way off
the rails. Let's do it.
I finally updated my LinkedIn profile, to inform people of the change in job after a couple of months.
I might do that this week as well.
I'm not a big LingkedIn user.
I log in once a year.
I got a message from somebody who was fishing, I guess, he wants to start a rugby consultant business too. It's like, hey, have you ever thought of this? I'm like, well, yeah, we've joked about it a lot. I've never actually taken it seriously. But, he wants to, get some rugby fundamentals into the NFL and wants to see what the market would be for that.
I had a friend congratulate me for my anniversary at my old job that I haven't changed yet. So I do need to update. Yeah. 33rd team, new role. Mm-hmm. It'll be like a whole new announcement. Maybe we'll get a whole new group of listeners.
Whole new group of people liking it. Thumbs up. Whatever the LinkedIn
corporate group.
Whatever the LinkedIn like is.
Anyway, Chiefs 17-10. Rashee Rice hurt. Other story in this. So the first 2 drives for the Steelers. Carson Steele fumble.
Yeah.
The running back filling in.
Chiefs.
What did I say?
Steelers.
I mean, we're 2 hours into this thing. Gonna misspeak a few more times here. It was the Chiefs. We're in Kansas City here.
I hope you did misspeak and I haven't just conflated Carson Steele and team that you're talking about. Otherwise,
Carson Steele should be a Steeler. It's
bad enough calling you out for it. It'd seem worse if you're
Carson Steele Steelers. That's what happened. Yeah. So he's on the Chiefs. He fumbled, and then Mahomes threw an interception. So the first 2 Chiefs drives were bad. They were bad.
The interception. So the Mahomes thing. I mean, okay. You lose your number 1 receiver for what looks like the year. That's very bad, period. It's also, you caused it in multiple different ways. I mean, the interception, terrible Mahomes interception. And then Mahomes kind of is part of the pile of trying to stop the play. Like he throws himself in there to make a tackle at the same time. Rashee Rice is actually knocking the ball out. Like he's hustled back to make a play.
He forced a fumble on
that. Punches it out, and then his knee gets buckled up because of the pile that in part Mahomes causes by trying to stop the play. Just a nightmare of a play from Kansas City's perspective.
That was another fascinating play because the fumble recovery, I believe they originally gave it to the Chiefs. So Mahomes throws the pick, Rashee Rice hustles back, forces the fumble, the Chiefs recover it, but I believe because the Chargers were touching the football while being out of bounds, the play just went back to the Chargers.
Right.
It was a lot like you didn't probably watch Virginia Tech, Miami.
Did not.
Hail Mary on Friday night. Looked like Virginia Tech won on a Hail Mary, but Miami was touching the ball while out of bounds and essentially
can't have it.
It was an incredible finish, a heartbreaker for the Hokies. But what? It's a heartbreaker.
I don't know why, but that phrase just very funny. The heartbreaker for the Hokies.
It's not as good as your inside joke phrase that we always use, but the good old
I might start using heartbreaker for the Hokies.
Heartbreaker
though,
for the Hokies.
It's just a funny
in
turn
Miami
of phrase.
On Friday night. Anything else about this? Your turn.
Anything else from this game? Rudy barely started talking about this
we
game.
were talking coach halftime interviews. I haven't listened to one all season. I swear, I have not listened to one except Jim Harbaugh's in this game. And they're like, Jim, what do you got to do? And he was like, oh, we got to clean up. We just got to clean up the penalties. And at some point, he just transfers into, our guys just want to play football. They just want to play ball.
Yeah.
They just want to play ball. But we got to do it without pre-snap penalties.
Yeah.
He just said smiling down, like our guys are just so excited to play football here in this second half. Not excited enough, apparently.
Fascinating character.
Anyway,
so we talked about the catastrophe. So outside of that play, Mahomes actually had a pretty good game. That was bad, but outside of that play, he actually did play a lot better than he's played so far this season.
The offense as a whole, though, is still. I mean, you have Xavier Worthy, 54-yard touchdown.
So they then unlock Xavier Worthy with that absolute bomb, which had not been part of this Kansas City offense for a long time now. That apparently was 30 games without a 50 or more yard pass from Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes, who kind of built his reputation off those plays, 30 games between them. 54-yard touchdown pass to Xavier Worthy. According to Next Gen Stats, traveled 62.2 yards in the air, which is Mahomes' longest completion by air distance in his entire career. Worthy then reaches a top speed of 21.4 miles an hour, the third fastest play by a ball carrier this season. So the perfect combination of like everything Kansas City would have hoped for when they drafted Xavier Worthy. Unlocks the Mahomes deep ball, which had gone missing, and is where you can use one of the fastest players of all time.
I was a week late on that prediction. I predicted that for the Sunday night game with the Falcons in the Dome. I forgot to do it for this Dome game.
Yeah.
Every Dome game, I predict Mahomes is going to throw the ball 100 yards and somebody's going to, for a touchdown. Xavier Worthy. Yeah, but they were struggling. I mean, Mahomes had been sacked, I think, 2 or 3 times up until that point. And I thought Tony Romo did a really nice job highlighting it. I mean, he only does Chiefs games, I think. So he's got a pretty good feel for Mahomes and the Chiefs. He was highlighting Jesse Minter's defense and the Chargers and how well they were keeping Mahomes and keeping their pass rush lanes. They were doing a lot of twists and stunts. They were having their edge rushers as the twister, right? Like taking contain and everything. They were doing a nice job because they were kind of like tricking Mahomes, right? When he sees a twist, he's like, "Oh, I can go," and then they were kind of, keeping him in there.
Is that the strategy when Tony Romo first broke on the scene and started predicting every play, everyone's like, this is the greatest thing that's ever happened to announcing, right? And then either the sheen wore off that or Romo stopped predicting plays and people very quickly flipped and went, actually, Tony Romo sucks. This is awful, right? And they were like, at that point, hit pieces started to be written about, Romo's lazy. He doesn't even do any prep anymore, right? He went from, he was a former quarterback, so of course he knows every NFL defense inside and out, to now he's getting paid millions and he's getting lazy and he's resting on his laurels. He doesn't even prep for these anymore. So is the solution to that from CBS to, well, if he's not going to prep, we'll just make him do the same team every week. That way he'll always know it.
It might be a good strategy.
So now he's back to knowing them inside and out, not because he's prepping any harder, but just because he's watching them every week.
Say what you want. I mean, it's not easy speaking for 3 hours straight and not making mistakes. You know that.
God knows it's not.
I'm already 5 deep right now, right? Mistakes.
Just a misinformation
Maybe
show.
10. Yeah. But I thought Roma does a good job, like seeing seeing situational stuff and seeing some of the trends within the game. I thought he highlighted that pretty well because the Chargers defense did a nice job. Mahomes did get Travis Kelce involved a lot more in this one. Thank you for going more than the 44.5 on his projection, and help my Prize Picks line up there. But you saw a little bit more from Travis Kelce. You're starting to see, and they hit Xavier Worthy on the crosser to seal the deal down the stretch. So there's going to be a little bit more pressure on those guys, and less pressure on Carson Steele fumbles. They go to Sky Moore on a little 2-yard route, drops it past the sticks. I mean, you're going to have to rely on Xavier Worthy and Travis Kelce now with Rashee Rice hurt.
But again, like the Giants, who have done a good job, albeit in a 1-game sample size, of showing that they have a counter to teams trying to take away their one big weapon in the league neighbors with all that motion. The Chiefs showed in this game that they're getting a lot better at understanding how best to use the fastest player in NFL history, right? We saw against the Bengals, Cam Taylor-Britt was so bullish and mouthy about, well, this guy only runs fast in a straight line. We got that covered. Because he knew that the way they were deploying him, I can get right up in his face, I can get hands on him, and then it doesn't matter if he runs a 4-2 because he can't run a 4-2 whilst I've got my hand on him and I'm slowing him down on the pattern.
Whilst.
Now, the Chiefs are showing that they can get him free releases and get him away from that contact. And if you can't get your hands on him, now 4-2 becomes really dangerous. And that was the first, that touchdown pass. Christian Fulton, I think, was the corner, gives him a free release off the line. By the time he realizes, he's running vertical, it's too late. He's toast, right? And he never gets close to recovering on that. And then the shallow drag, same thing. They realized, got it.
Showing the tweet.
Big play, got to have it.
Perfect throw, man.
It really is. Beautiful throw. But by the time Fulton realizes what's happening, it's too late. The guy's running a 4-2. You're never recovering. And then the shallow drag was the same idea. We need a big play. We need a play, rather. We just get him running away from his leverage, right? Just immediately start him inside, away from the contact, and he can run away from you. You're never going to get that back. If the pass is even remotely accurate, it's going to be a first down, and that was huge in a tight game.
That's sick. We got some tweets that show the video now on YouTube. If you are just a podcast listener, I suggest you do both. Listen, but also subscribe to the YouTube channel and maybe watch it as well. Do both. Double up.
Do people have that kind of
I'm sure
hours
they have,
in the day?
I'm sure they have 15 hours a week to watch both shows.
Got it.
To watch and listen. From a Chargers perspective, as I mentioned yesterday, I mean, Justin Herbert's playing through injury. They get up 10-0. The offense does almost nothing after that. Herbert throws a nice pass on a little scramble drill to J.K. Dobbins that he drops. It just felt like at some point there was a lot of pre-snap penalties for the Chargers. They just made too many mistakes, again, to beat the Chiefs. This is what it feels like every week.
Yeah.
Chiefs are down 10 and shut them down. Defense shuts the Chargers down. They were overmatched up front, missing their two starting tackles, Herbert being injured. But they're just making too many mistakes to try to pull the upset. And they got stopped on fourth down. Jim Harbaugh's challenging a pass that was a clear completion and calling a timeout before the fourth down. So you lose your timeouts in the second half. It's just like every week, it's just like teams are like, oh, what's the worst thing we could do against the Chiefs? Let's just make mistakes.
Chris Jones was absolutely phenomenal in this game.
He was.
There was a play, I think it was a false start, some kind of pre-snap penalty where Sam Mustipher kind of jumps the play, gets his hands on Chris Jones early, and even by the time it took them to like blow it dead and call it a penalty, Chris Jones had already reset Mustipher and like tossed him to the side. Like, dude, you jumped early and still were losing the block. That's a problem. Like, you were just getting wrecked by a guy that's way better than you. And that was really... If this was one of those games where it felt like anytime Chris Jones wanted to dial one up, he was just going to win. Like, it was like he was sort of biding his time. All right, now I need it. Third and whatever. I'll make the play now. And done.
He's kind of like Vita Vea, but he does it way more often.
Yeah, and I'm starting to think that there's something to these, like, elite, insane players. And part of it is, like, how much attention they get.
Yeah, you got some double teams.
Yeah, it's like the Aaron Donald thing. If you ever listen to Aaron Donald talk about how he watched tape, like, he isn't watching it for, what they're doing, strategy, blah, blah. He was watching it to try and identify the 3 times a game he would be one-on-one. Because, he's going to play 60 snaps a game, and in 57 of those 60 snaps, there are going to be 2 bodies trying to block him. So he's watching tape for tells to try and work out when the 3 plays a game are that he's going to be one-on-one because he knows he needs to win and get a sack on those plays. Those are his only opportunities to effectively impact it. So part of it is that, right, that they're getting so much attention, you're not going to have the chance to win every single play. But it does feel like, Chris Jones, TJ Watt, these crazy good players are so good that they are able to sort of go, all right, now I need it. 3rd and 10, now's the time I got to win, and actually just dial it up. And maybe there's only like so much, maybe you can only do that so many times a game. Just determine now is the time to win the game. But I'm starting to think there is an ability for those guys to do that. It happens seemingly too regularly for that to just be variance and chance. And they're not winning so much that like it's just that they are also winning on every 3rd down.
Chiefs defense was legit, man.
Yeah.
They continue to just be very consistent week in, week out. Last thing, Ladd McConkey was awesome for the Chargers, but
that touchdown was really nice from both perspectives. Like, that was a really good Justin Herbert play. He knew he was going to take a hit there. McConkey wasn't really open at that point. He just threw him to a spot, and McConkey made the play in the back of the end zone as well. Like, a really nice combination between the two.
All right, Washington Commanders 42, Arizona Cardinals 14. Commanders move to 3-1, first place in the NFC East.
Yes.
And there's a lot of stats out there showing how good the Commanders have been.
Well, you were writing off Jaden Daniels' capacity to be a 90% completion guy a week ago.
I was right.
Turns out he might actually be.
He was at 87 in this game.
I see.
Jaden Daniels finishes 26 of 30 for 233.
Hard
touchdown
regression from 90 to 87.
Second straight week, both things can be true. He was good, completed a high percentage of passes, and then Arizona's defense, I don't trust them a whole lot. I'm not taking any credit away from Jaden Daniels before you get it. Stop, Commanders fans, they're coming after me. I could feel them. Jaden Daniels is awesome. You know what he does, Sam?
Completes a really high percentage of his passes, apparently.
But you know why that is, though? Like, a big part of it.
Why?
If he doesn't have a throw, he is able to take off. And even if it's just picking up a few yards, it's better than an incompletion. That's what's happening these last couple weeks, is when it's not there, he'll scramble, pick up some value, pick up some, positive yardage, and not throw the incompletion. And he's comfort level and accuracy and so much of what he's doing is fantastic. He had something like 35 straight completions under 10 yards or whatever the number. There's all sorts of crazy stats out there that are real, not made up Aaron Rodgers stats.
Well, Washington scored on 16 straight drives this season, which ended after the McNichols touchdown, because the next drive was his interception to Garrett Williams. But 16 straight drives they scored. When they punted, which I think was the drive following the interception, it was the first time the Washington punt team had been on the field since week 1. Like, they hadn't punted at all.
So week 2, it wasn't like you were watching week 2 when they scored 18 points and 7 field goals, 21 points, 7 field goals. You weren't watching that being like, look at this dominant Commanders offense. But then when you realize, they scored on all of those possessions, all field goals, which was a record then, and then have that Monday night game against the Bengals where they weren't stopped, and then they carried into this Cardinals game. It was an incredible stretch. Commanders have had by far the most efficient offense in the league, and EPA-wise, the second best offense, or the best offense since the 2007 Patriots through 4 weeks.
And that, all the focus is going to be on Jaden Daniels and what he's doing, but that backfield has been incredibly good as well. Like, Brian Robinson has played phenomenally so far this season. They were missing Austin Eckler. Jeremy McNichols steps in and picks up that role, right, and does really well. It's a great touchdown from him. Jaden Daniels is a big part of that run game as well. Like, that's a really important part of his game that you can't overlook with all the completion rate stats. But the run game for Washington is insane. It's a huge part of why the offense has been successful.
Olamide Zaccheaus runs 11 routes, catches 6 passes for 85 yards, all first downs.
That's pretty good.
Getting him into space. Just everything's cooking right now for Washington. And look, I think Jaden Daniels is a driver for that. You're right about the running backs. You're right about Brian Robinson running well. When was the last time Jeremy McNichols was making plays in the NFL? That
Zaccheaus stat line that you just talked about is 7.7 yards per route run.
I was wondering as I was reading it what that would be. Jeremy McNichols hasn't played NFL football since 2021, and he's breaking off 26-yard touchdown runs or whatever it was. Daniels deserves a lot of the credit for that because of his ability in the run game, open things up, the question marks coming into the season. Can the O-line pass protect enough? They certainly have these last couple weeks. Is that because of Daniels, because of his running ability? Is he opening up the run game? Is he opening up better pass protection? I did have a question. I want to touch on it Wednesday. There was a question on Twitter from somebody saying Jaden Daniels and his deep drops, like he drops back so deep. I'll have to look into it closer. But usually it was like, is that helping him from a protection standpoint? I don't think it is. That's usually a bad thing. When you drop too deep, you lose the edge rushers can go they can just sprint to a spot 10 or 11 yards deep, and it's impossible to block that as a tackle effectively. It's actually a bad thing overall. But they're making it work right now. I don't think that's why the question was about, is he dropping deep and Caleb Williams isn't, and that's what's happening with pass protection. Another one I want to ask JT about what he's seeing from Daniels, from Caleb Williams. But the comfort level of it. So again, the deep drop is usually a detriment, but right now Washington is pass protecting well. I do think Daniels is doing a nice job of reading it out. And again, if it's not there, boom, take off, pick up some yards. Incredibly efficient offense, great decision-making, accuracy, one weird interception, great interception by Garrett Williams. But, I mean, other than that, Jaden Daniels has been outstanding these last couple weeks.
Yeah, he has. He's looked fantastic. There's a lot of quick passing in there as well, which is going to help. And I think his athleticism probably is going to have a big impact in terms of how teams rush him. Now, again, level set, Arizona, bad defense. One of the worst pass rushing situations in the NFL. Like, this was not a team that was likely to get after him. But you look at what they were doing on defense, a lot of their approach seemed to be, let's not rush too hard. Let's rush 3 guys. Let's rush 4 guys. Let's drop into coverage. Let's take him away that way. And he carved that up. Like, that was a sort of huge statement by this offense, that Arizona's approach generally seemed to be, let's not get after the young athletic quarterback. Let's sink everybody into coverage. Let's make him win as a cerebral passing quarterback. And he responded with an 87% completion rate and one really good play by a DB to take the interception. Like, this couldn't have been answered more authoritatively for Jaden Daniels of, that's not how you're going to play me. Like, if you're going to do that, I'm going to take that all day long.
So last 2 weeks, he's 47 of 53 passing. 47 for 53. That's insane.
Yeah. And again, remember,
they have more scoring drives than incompletions or something like that. I mean, it's craziness.
This is a league where that type of play, to be able to just high completion rate, even if you're not necessarily hitting a deep shot every other play, that's how you're winning right now, right? If you're able to do that in 2024, like, Jaden Daniels is showing that he's sort of setting himself up to be really effective this year.
Now, so my next question is going to be, how are, coming off these first 4 weeks of really good play by Washington, but really the last 2 weeks where they've been unstoppable offensively, how are defenses going to respond? And these are fair questions, right? I mean, it's fun to be like, oh, this guy's the next greatest thing, and he looks unbelievable. Sustaining the success now is about the counterpunch from the rest of the NFL. You just mentioned the Bengals and Cardinals have 2 of the worst pure 4-man rushes in the NFL.
Yeah.
That's how they were trying to attack him the last couple weeks, not blitzing. I know that Jaden Daniels, when he did get blitzed against Cincinnati, had one of the best throws I've ever seen.
Yeah.
One of the best throws I've ever seen.
Well, he's shown.
But I think that's what you're gonna want to do.
Yeah.
Is make him make more of those rather than let him pick you apart, because he's shown that he can do that now.
Well, he's shown in consecutive weeks that he's going to carve up the blitz, and if you're going to drop everybody back and not blitz him, he'll carve that up as well. Like, that's a huge consecutive statement from Jaden Daniels to basically say right away, there is no recipe here. There's no, like, blueprint to just go, oh, I know what we do. We just blitz him every week. Or I know what we do. We just drop everybody into coverage and he'll seize up. Consecutive weeks. Again, with the level set that 2 of the worst 4-man rushes in the NFL. It might be a different story.
Only blitzed 9 times on 39 dropbacks yesterday.
Yeah.
I'm just curious if in the coming weeks now, we see a lot more teams putting heat on and saying, hey, we're going to try to hit Terry McLaurin over the top. We don't want to give up 50-yard touchdowns, but you better hit these every single time.
Well, my point being, in consecutive weeks, he's gone from, I've made a bunch of plays against the blitz, to I've played a team that didn't blitz at all, and I carved them up as well. What are you going to do now, right? Now, it's going to be a different story when he faces some legit 4-man fronts, and next week they're facing Myles Garrett, right? So things are going to get slightly different, but you can't say enough about a 2-game sequence where he's answered every question that's been thrown his way with authority. I mean, not just answered them, but looked like one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL while doing so.
As you mentioned, run game looks fantastic as well. Washington's offense is cooking. Kyler Murray's kind of come back down to earth over the last couple weeks after having the highest graded game by PFF the entire season back in week 2. Mentioned that coming in. You've got 2 quarterbacks, Kyler and Jaden Daniels, who had played perhaps the 2 best games of any quarterbacks in the season, week 2 and 3. Kyler, again, when he plays average football, this looks like a below average football team. So, they're 1 and 3 now.
Yeah. It felt like in this, like, Washington's defense just found more teeth than Arizona's had. Like, Jaden Daniels had an answer for everything the Cardinals were trying to do on defense, but Washington's defense actually made some plays, and that was a big difference. Like, they were able to make some plays and neutralize Kyler Murray in a way that the Arizona defense wasn't able to do.
Anything else on this game?
Nope.
All right, we got a couple more 4 o'clock games to get to, but first, the show is brought to you by BetterHelp. We appreciate our friends over at BetterHelp right now. October's the season for wearing masks and costumes, but some of us feel like we wear a mask and hide more often than we want to at work and social settings around your family. So this is, something that when we were with PFF, we worked with BetterHelp just a little bit, and it is a great thing for people. If you're looking to start therapy, BetterHelp can help with that. It's all online. It's designed to be convenient, flexible, suited to your schedule. You fill out a brief questionnaire. You get matched with a licensed therapist, switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. It is just a great way to do things kind of on your own terms, especially when, people are maybe keeping things in, we'll say. So whether or not you've been in therapy and if you've done this before, BetterHelp is going to, it's something that you can do online on your time and, kind of do it your way. So visit BetterHelp.com/checkthemic today. Get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp. Check the mic is the promo. 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/checkthemic.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's always been a sort of stigma attached to mental health stuff. It's great to be destigmatizing that, and the fact that it's all online and that convenient is a huge step in the right direction. You don't have to go out of your way to address that kind of thing. You can do the whole thing from your device, from your computer.
All right, last 2 more 4 o'clock games here. Cleveland Browns and Las Vegas Raiders. Raiders get the win here, Sam. Weird back and forth game in this one. Browns had a chance, negated 82-yarder that looked like they took the lead, but it was not to be. 20-16, Raiders win. They moved to 2-2. Browns fall to 1-3.
Yeah, this was a weird game where, having just about written off Deshaun Watson, I thought he actually played very well in this game. And every time, most of his best plays found a way of not counting or being let down. Like, he ends up with an interception in this game. The interception was one of the best throws he made. He finds Amari Cooper over the middle in like a square of defenders, like hits him in the middle of 4 different guys, just clangs right off Cooper's shoulder pads, I think, bounces up in the air, interception. This was after, I think, Cooper had already completely lost track of a deep ball and was still like looking back at the pocket for like, when's the ball coming out, as it drops onto the turf 15 yards to his right. Like, Amari Cooper, there was another, like that, as you said, the big play later on ends up getting negated by a penalty. Like, every time Watson made one of his better plays, it was either negated or let down by his receiver. I thought he actually played really well in this game. Like, right away, leads an efficient, clean drive. This was a game that they should have won and didn't because other people screwed up.
Yeah, I'm with you. It felt like every key play, offensive line had all sorts of issues. I know they've had a ton of injuries. But the Raiders were injured too. They didn't have Max Crosby. Tyree Wilson, I always call him out when he's unproductive. He had some really nice rushes in this game for the Raiders. Is Charles Snowden with the strip sack down the stretch to kind of seal it for the Raiders. But yeah, I thought the Browns' offensive line kind of let them down here. And the Raiders let them back in the game too. Fumble, defensive touchdown for the Browns. Yeah, it's an interesting one because I think throw for throw, play for play, Watson did play pretty well. But again, you have a good throw picked off. You have another good one negated. The negated touchdown, they just weren't able to put points on the board. Again, after that first drive. First drive was clean.
Yeah.
I've used the word rhythm a lot when trying to say that the Browns have none of it, right? But that first drive was in rhythm, like 15 plays, driving down the field for that first touchdown. It looked like they were going to have a lot of success offensively, and they just couldn't do much after that. Could not find the end zone after that first drive, despite Deshaun Watson playing pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about how the Browns' offensive line was very much up in the air, given the injuries that they've got, given the players that they've got banged up or questionable heading into this game. It ends up being rookie, right? Zach Zinter. I'm sort of losing track of where I liked him in the low rounds of a draft. Like, was that this year? Anyway,
oh, yeah, happens all the time.
Zach Zinter, DeJuan Jones, James Hudson, Joe Bitonio, the one sort of proven superstar, or superstar as much as a lineman can be. And then Nick Harris ends up being in there along with Eason Posich at center. Like, that's not a good group to begin with. They also, there was a period in this game where there was some kerfuffle on the sideline. Deshaun Watson and DeJuan Jones seem to be getting into it with Jameis acting as peacemaker. That's a mic'd up segment I'd pay to hear.
Oh, man. Can we get that audio, please?
But that
DeJuan Jones, an absolute monster.
Yeah. And look, DeJuan Jones didn't have the best game in the world. He was, however, far from the biggest problem on the offensive line. So I don't know what was happening on that specific instance to spark that. But yeah, generally the offensive line was absolutely not helping. But in previous games, if that happened, Watson would have fallen apart, gotten nothing done, had nowhere to go with the ball, failed to make any plays. Instead, he was actually doing well. Like, again, can't overstate the irony of this is the first really good Watson game since the last one. But like, he actually showed up here, and then nobody else did.
From a Raiders perspective, their 2 touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns, Trey Tucker and then DJ Turner on the jet sweep. So it was kind of 2 trick plays in the red zone.
Yep.
Getting the hands in there, and the ball in the hands of their receivers.
Because no Devontae Adams, no Michael Mayer. Like, they're missing some of their biggest players as well on the offensive side.
So that was huge for the Raiders. And, man, I just give credit to their defense. Again, you get a little lucky, I think, on the holding penalty, but they had dudes step up. Adam Butler was creating pressure. We know Christian Wilkins is really good. He had a nice game. Tyree Wilson, maybe one of the best games of his career, played 42 snaps. He had been a backup for the most part, the former number 7 overall pick. He did a nice job in this game. Trayvon Merrick had the interception on a pick, on the drop pass, interception on the drop pass. Isaiah Polamayo, the other safety, had a really nice pass breakup. Did I get that right?
More or less.
Polamayo.
It sounds very similar to Polamalu, except it isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's spelled completely differently.
Correct.
With a hyphen in the middle.
Right.
But he made a really nice pass breakup as well. I thought the Raiders defense, really did a nice job, again, in a game where Watson played well snap for snap, but the Raiders took advantage of the Browns' depleted offensive line.
Polamalu had an amazing pass breakup where it was the type of play that you generally can't make anymore as a safety. Like, you can't deliver that hit because it's almost impossible to get it right. And he managed to hit the guy in literally the only way that it's not a penalty. And not only was it not a penalty, but it was an incompletion because of that. Like, he came in and hit just the guy's arms, right? Like, guy catches the ball in his hands, safety coming across, hits him, and literally just hit his arms to knock the ball away. Doesn't hit the guy and breaks the pass up. You're like, it's amazing. Because I can't remember the last time I saw one of those hits delivered in a way that wasn't, at the very least, debatably a penalty. This one wasn't even close. Just a great play to break that pass up.
I forgot to mention the Minkah Fitzpatrick unnecessary roughness that he got. Did you happen to see that play?
No.
He was playing cover 2, but from the other side of the field. He was just running as fast as he could. Ball got, the throw missed, and he just ran into A.D. Mitchell, I think it was. And they called a penalty. Like, he just didn't slow down in time on a bang-bang play. It was kind of a rough, it looked like a just normal football play, but I thought it was a bad call at the time. But he was just running fast. It is tough. It's tough in those situations. But yeah, Raiders were up 20-10, kind of let the Browns back into it with the fumble recovery for a touchdown. Had the 82-yard touchdown negated, but the Raiders pull it off at the end. Again, credit to their defense and finding ways to get the ball to the playmakers. They were trying to get it to DJ Turner a couple times, I think, down the field, and Tucker down the field, but they got it to him on the ground.
Yeah. By the way, the big play to Amari Cooper, the one that Cooper actually made and gets negated by a penalty, I thought that was a bad call.
Yeah.
That was one of those ones where the quarterback starts to try and move out of the pocket, resets the leverage, and the offensive lineman's got to recognize that and let go, right, and not get called for holding when the quarterback starts to escape. I thought he did, though. That was weak to me. Like that was a very, not even ticky-tacky. I just think it was a bad judgment. I don't think he held on that play.
Yeah, it wasn't great, but Raiders get the win here. Happy for Walt in the chat. Is Walt here today?
Yeah.
Of course. Is he excited? Is he excited by this win? Raiders move to 2-2. Browns fall to 1-3 on the season. San Francisco 49ers 30, New England Patriots 13. Niners 2-2 now. Patriots fall to 1-3. I thought this was kind of as expected. Niners settled for field goals early on, but their playmakers started making plays. You got a Fred Warner pick six, big plays from Jawan Jennings, Deebo Samuel down the field, George Kittle with an incredible touchdown catch. Niners run away with this one. Could have been even worse.
Yeah, Ayuk had a phenomenal catch as well where he dived and picked it up off the ground. This was fairly comfortable. They got up to a big lead. They were already up 2 scores. The Patriots then failed on 4th and 1. This is done. Ramondre Stevenson fumbled the ball again. I think that's every game this season he's fumbled the ball.
It's at least 3.
I mean, Belichick would have exiled that guy to Siberia at this point, let alone still relied on him as the main workhorse.
He's their best offensive player.
That wouldn't have stopped Belichick.
Yeah, he's got a fumble per game.
Yeah. I don't think that would have stopped Belichick just because he was their best offensive player. I'm curious if Jennings is going to carve himself a bigger role given his impacts with players missing. Like, he's been really good. I don't know how you get him more touches or more plays in the offense given what an embarrassment of riches they already have, but like, dude, that guy looks like he could be a really big impact player for any other team who didn't have the players of the
Jennings looks fantastic. I mean, again, the Niners lost to the Vikings pretty handily, blew it against the Rams in week 3.
Yeah.
And I'm almost more confident about their offense than I've ever been because of Jennings breaking out, because of what they're capable of. I know Christian McCaffrey's not out there. He's maybe rehabbing right now, and we'll see what happens as far as recovery goes.
It's back from Germany.
It's back from Germany at least. But they just have so many options there, and Purdy's like the gunslinger now, throwing the ball down the field. The stat I mentioned coming into this game, the Niners had most yards on 10-plus yard throws. They were at 581 to the Patriots' 84. That's first and last in the NFL.
Nice.
In this game, the Niners had 205 to the Patriots' 21. So that was the gap widened a little bit. But, yeah, the Niners have this big play offense still. They have a lot of potential to put up a lot of points every week.
About the only positive thing that New England did was they forced Brock Purdy off his spot a lot. Like, they got him on the move.
He was scrambling a ton.
Yeah. The only problem is he's good at that. So
he is.
He made a lot of plays in that situation. By the way, to add to the list of the terrible officiating week, a couple of plays or one play maybe before George Kittle's insane catch in a group of 3 different defenders, they took a touchdown off the board on what was clearly they said 2 guys were moving and didn't reset. George Kittle specifically made sure that they both reset. Like, he stopped Brock Purdy snapping the ball because he realized it was an illegal shift. 2 guys were moving at once, so they both got to reset for a second before the play. Kittle basically paused the play and was like, wait. Okay, go. We both reset. And they called it. Like, that's a blown call. It's not even a bad miscall. It's inventing a call that wasn't there.
Yeah, I don't know. Just get Dean on here. Why did the refs make bad calls last week?
Why are NFL officials bad?
Nothing operational. Why did they make bad calls? It was bad for New England, and then they also had more injuries. Caden Wallace only played the third-round rookie, played only 3 snaps, got hurt. Kyle Duggar left with injury. David Andrews, pass blocking grade's going to be in the low 40s or high 30s or something coming out of this. I know the next question in New England's like, just get Drake May in. Nobody wants to watch Jacoby Brissett anymore. It's like, well, just suck it up and watch Jacoby Brissett because you don't want your rookie getting killed.
Yeah.
That's it.
Absolutely ridiculous play by Jalen Polk late in the game in the 4th down where Brissett throws a ball where if he's going to catch it, he's catching it whilst launching himself into a body of a safety.
He was like the 3rd most likely person to catch that one.
Yeah, and it's like, it's insanely difficult. You assume the ball is going to be in his hands and then be jarred loose by the contact with the safety. Instead, he somehow holds on, and I think had a fairly strong argument that he got enough down to make that a catch. But anyway, they don't give it to him. Crazy play by Polk. Other thing, New England draws up a really nice, smart lateral play. The classic rugby play where you get a guy coming across the field, catches the ball, laterals it across to the dude that everyone's forgotten about on the far side of the field. It's actually really nicely drawn up and negated because of a penalty. So even here, like, nobody would have cared anyway. They're getting beat down. It's a play that nothing's working with. But it was smart. It was a nice draw up. The lateral was to the sideline, so even if they make a mess of it, it's probably not a big deal. That's the type of play teams should be using more with this lateral stuff.
Last thing, so Fred Warner limited to just 28 snaps. He ends up leaving with an ankle, I believe it was. If he's healthy, I mean, he is in the middle of a Defensive Player of the Year type of season.
Every year.
But like really, we talked about the Minnesota game back in week 2, a fumble at the goal line that he forces, and a red zone interception.
Yep.
Every single week, it is very difficult at linebacker to make game-changing plays every single week. He's pretty much doing that, at least 3 out of the 4 weeks. Absolute game-changing plays by Fred Warner, whether it's forced fumbles, whether it's the pick six. So hopefully he's back soon. But he's sitting on a current 95.9 PFF grade here, unofficial till it'll be finalized in a few hours here. But pretty incredible start for Fred Warner this year for the Niners, amongst the other stars that they have.
Just wanted to, not all is doom and gloom for the New England Patriots. They do have the most jacked kicker in the NFL, Joey Sly, who was good from 63 yards here.
I say this often.
Yeah.
But one of my favorite things about working with you is I roll in on a Monday morning. I got all my notes. I saw the games. I've got my own opinions on it, and you just bring something to the table.
So you remember
that I just missed. There's something that I just didn't see the previous day.
Remember when you had that document that was like height and weight of every NFL player? And you're like, who are you most like? And you're like DeForest Buckner or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, so there's quite a lot of players that have the same body as I am in terms of height and weight.
You want to compare yourself to the jacked kicker?
It's distributed differently, but in terms of height and weight, I actually fit quite a few NFL bodies, right? As we discovered on our final show at PFF, I am certifiably 5'11", right? Mm-hmm. Verified with a tape measure. Joey Sly.
You have the 5110 with a V next to it.
What's the V mean?
Verified.
Okay.
That's how Jim Nagy does it.
Got it.
The V for verified.
Correct. So you might make me look like I'm only 5'2", but I am in fact verified 5'11". Joey Sly is also 5'11", right? I am approximately 180 pounds, right? And I'm at least 10 pounds heavier than I should be with non-ideal weight, shall we call it. Would you like to know at the same height how much Joey Sly weighs?
Yes.
Bearing in mind that most kickers do not carry a ton of muscle. Joey Sly weighs 212 pounds. That guy is 30 pounds heavier than I am, and I'm 10 pounds heavier than I should be. That's a large individual. That's how you get 63 yards on a field goal.
Patriots fans thought there was nothing to be optimistic about this season.
The most jacked kicker in the league.
I got no more use for this game. Are we on to the last game, Sunday Night Football?
Yep.
Are we ready for this? Is that all I have? Oh, no. I got to do. I'll tell you about our friends over at Factor. Things out of order. Meet your wellness goals thanks to the menu of chef-crafted meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. We had Factor a couple weeks ago. It was great. Had all my meals ready to go for an entire week. Factor's fresh and never frozen meals are dietitian approved and ready to eat in just 2 minutes or 7 minutes with me in my oven. So no matter how busy you are, you'll always have time to enjoy nutritious, great tasting meals. So what are you waiting for? With 35 different meals and more than 60 add-ons to choose from every week, you'll always have new flavors to explore. You can crush those wellness goals, as I mentioned. Make your day delicious from breakfast to dessert. Stay fueled with easy, nutritious options. Treat yourself to restaurant-quality meals that feature premium ingredients like filet mignon, shrimp, and blackened salmon. Keep kitchen time to a minimum. Factor meals are ready in 2 minutes. Again, I don't have a microwave, but I use the oven. It was about 7 to 9 minutes for me. It was easy, though. You just pop it right in the oven, and it was great. If you have the microwave, fine. 2 minutes for you.
Can't believe you don't have a microwave.
The house didn't come with a microwave, but I have everything. I got a double oven. The double oven. I could do 2 Factor meals at the same time.
The house didn't come with a microwave.
That's right.
The quality of the food coming out of the microwave from this stuff is really impressive. Like generally speaking, your hopes aren't high for microwave meals, but this is actually surprisingly good quality coming out of the microwave.
I was impressed by it. So you can head to factormeals.com/SamandSteve50. Use code SamandSteve50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. It's a great deal. Code SamandSteve50 at factormeals.com/SamandSteve50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active. Sunday Night Football, Baltimore Ravens 35, Buffalo Bills 10. Ravens move to 2-2. Bills fall to 3-1. Their first loss here. Ravens pretty much dominated from start to finish. Bills had signs of life, and then a trick play was bad.
Yeah, so again, a little bit like the Tampa Bay-Philadelphia game, the Minnesota-Green Bay game, all one team. And then there's a brief moment where the trailing team looks like they might get back into it, and then this one was just stomped out quickly by that one weird play call. Buffalo couldn't stop Derrick Henry at all in this game.
87-yard touchdown to kick things off.
So, run out of the pistol, right? Remember, this is kind of becoming a schematic theme this year. A lot of use of pistol. People are either very pro or very against use of the pistol, but this is Baltimore. Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry deploying the pistol, and they get this incredible Derrick Henry run right off the bat. I am constantly amazed by a guy that size. His ability to run away from people and keep going is nuts. He got through and then ran away from multiple DBs at 250 pounds. Next Gen Stats has this tweet that Derrick Henry reached 21.3 miles per hour in his 87-yard TD run, tied for the fourth fastest speed by a ball carrier this season, and Henry's eighth fastest speed since 2018. Only Tyreek Hill has reached 20 or more miles an hour over the last few years than Derrick Henry. Now, what's kind of funny to me is that Derrick Henry's done it 27 times and Tyreek Hill is at 80-something. So the difference between 1 and 2 on that list is insane. But Derrick Henry being number 2 on that list is pretty crazy for a guy that freaking huge.
Yeah, I mean, the speed stuff is somewhat dependent on just having the big plays, so it's as impressive just getting into the secondary. But
right,
yeah,
but you don't
being able to run that fast at that size.
At 250 pounds, you generally assume that Derrick Henry at some point is going to get chased down by the guy chasing him, right? And it doesn't happen.
I mean, it's one of those games, right? Like, there's been times this year where we're saying, the fit with the Ravens. Like, theoretically, I've loved the fit, right? The idea that you have to defend him and Lamar Jackson, but we've been trying to figure out what's the best way, because a lot of times Henry does well just under center, wide zone, get out on the edge and downhill. What is the best fit? But then you have a game like this, like the old school Derrick Henry game, where it's an 87-yarder, but then he's just also leaning on you the entire game. And it was another one of those Lamar Jackson efficient games, right? Doesn't have to pass a whole lot, 13 of 18 for 156, but he's not missing a ton of passes. And, just stealing 8, 10, 12 yards on the ground when he needs to as well.
Yeah. So first half was all Baltimore. Like, they got ahead. They got the Henry play. Their defense was annihilating Buffalo. The Bills were curiously conservative, I guess, with play calling. They were already down 14-3 and punted on 4th and 1 from their own 39. That, given the way that game was going, that felt like, and again, Josh Allen is a cheat code on 3rd and 4th and 1, right? I was very surprised that they punted that ball already down, 14-3. Then, Allen tried to throw an interception behind his receiver. Ball was straight to Nate Wiggins, who dropped the pass.
It looked like it hurt Nate Wiggins.
Probably did.
That was a laser.
Yeah. Lamar fumbles right before the half is the first sort of sign of life that maybe Buffalo can get back into this. But generally, the first half was all Baltimore. And then coming out of halftime was Buffalo's moment. Totally different. Josh Allen makes that absolute freak show Superman play on the sideline.
Rolling right, 52 yards to Khalil Shakir.
Yeah, which didn't quite get in the end zone, but they scored shortly after, set them up. That got them to 21-10. And then they got a stop immediately after that. So totally different game coming out of halftime. They get the touchdown to answer. They get a stop. They got the ball back. Now we're rolling. We can really get back in this. Again, Next Gen Stats had another stat. Josh Allen was less than a yard away from the sideline when he threw that 52-yard completion. Since entering the NFL in 2018, Allen has completed, now I think there was another one later that was within a yard from the sideline. So as of this pass, Allen had completed 6 of 7 passes for 118 yards and 3 touchdowns within a yard of the sideline. The rest of the NFL was 1 for 16.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
That was the same one he made against Kansas City in the regular season last year. Like he's a step, like his body's like leaning out of bounds, but he's still in bounds and he makes a throw. I mean, he is creating plays that should not be there.
Yeah.
And those are the types of plays the Bills needed to get back into this because
this was the
Ravens
game.
defense was doing a nice job taking away their yak plays.
We talked about they hadn't needed Josh Allen to be Superman yet this season. They needed him to be Superman in this game. He was for a brief period of time, and then things unraveled with the trickery call. What did you make of that play call?
Because it didn't work.
Correct.
So it was snuffed out.
Yeah.
Slow developing. It was the one where, the quarterback's going to line up wide. You're going to get it to him. You're going to pitch it back to him and, try to hit a big play. And then Allen,
Baltimore basically had it blown up from the outset.
And Allen's obviously trying to make something out of it. And I think he knows he's going to get hit. He's trying to get rid of it, get strip sacked. Kyle Van Noy, 3rd straight game with multiple sacks. And I think it hurt Allen's arm. I mean, it reminded me of the play, was it against the Jets a couple years ago, where he got hit in the throwing motion. I as a former thrower, Sam, I think about how much that must hurt, and especially as much velocity as he creates.
Yeah.
You're getting hit in your throwing motion. Your UCL's coming forward as you're getting hit, and you're just like, I don't know how it doesn't blow you out more. But it looked like he got banged up in the arm on that one. But yeah, it was a fumble on a play where he's trying to make something happen that isn't there, and clearly, call it momentum or whatever. I mean, you lost the football. That's why it was bad for you. But yeah, you were cooking, went for the home run. It doesn't work out, and you never had a chance after that.
Yeah, I don't even know that it was going to work. I mean, even if it hadn't been blown up and he had the chance to throw it, I don't know that it was going anywhere. But I mean, whoever that was, it Van Noy? Yeah, Van Noy had it blown up just from the outset. I mean, he was going to absolutely destroy the guy lining up to take the direct snap, and then he was the guy that ends up chasing it all the way and getting Josh Allen's arm before he threw. You're right. It's very easy to say, well, it didn't work, therefore it was a bad play call. But this play individually ended the game for Buffalo. Like at this point, they are 21-10 down, but they've just scored a touchdown, got a defensive stop. Coming out of halftime, it looks like a totally different team. Baltimore is fresh off and kind of collapsed themselves. If Buffalo continues this drive and gets another score, even if it was only 3, right? We are in a totally different ballgame than we were in the first half. Instead, this play happens, complete disaster. The Ravens get the ball, and Buffalo goes right back to being just beat up for the whole game. But it feels like because there's this debate about is momentum real, all that kind of stuff. But because it does feel like it's a different game at this point, just run the plays. Like the regular plays are working now. Run them. Just pick up a few more first downs. Don't try and get tricky.
Allen, I mean, I think he deserves blame for trying to make something out of it. The play was blown up. It's 2nd and 7. You're in Ravens territory. On 2nd down, you've got 2 more. I mean, if he could have thrown it away, but he's trying to create some room, and then he's rolling left and trying to chuck it back across his body. I mean, even if he just ran it,
yeah,
and just said even if you took a negative 2-yard sack, and it's still 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, that's the thing. I mean, and then similar, they're down 18, and he takes a 16-yard sack on 3rd and 4. It's an unblocked rusher. He tries to scramble out and make a play. Gets tackled. You got Keon Coleman with a drop on a perfect deep ball that Josh Allen throws. They've hit Coleman on the 2 back shoulders later. I mean, there was a lot of what ifs here, I think, for Buffalo, because they needed all of the what ifs to work.
I just think the play call, I think there's a fine line between creativity and getting too cute, and this just felt like a bad time for it, right? You've just gotten everything back in your direction. Just run a normal play. It's 2nd and 7. Pick up 4 more yards, get to 3rd and 3. Just run anything that keeps you ahead of the chains. Don't try and get super creative. Get it all back on one play. Like, it's a classic sort of cautionary tale of what not to do. Don't try and get it all back on one play. Just keep the chains moving. You've suddenly got Baltimore on the ropes, and instead they give it all back with one crazy play.
Yeah, I mean, if we finally get our offensive coordinator friends on the show to talk to them, I would love to get that, because they had this in the game plan, right?
Why do
they
you make bad play calls?
Zach, why'd you call that 4th and 1 last week against the Chiefs? I mean, when you probably have 4 or 5 trick plays maybe in a given week, right? You don't get to all of them, obviously, but some of them you feel great about for a reason, right? You're like, this is going to work against this team. That's why it's in my game plan. And when we cross the 50, that's in shot play territory.
Right.
We're going to run it. And so that's your Tuesday, game plan, right? Tuesday and Wednesday, you're talking about that stuff. But how do you sprinkle it in to the game flow there, right? So the 4 plays before the trick play, 24-yard pass to Keon Coleman, 4-yard rush, 6-yard rush, 3-yard rush. Why get cute from Buffalo Sports Talk?
Yeah.
Complaining.
That's kind of my point, right? Like, it's
but
at the moment it's working.
What I'm trying to say is, like, did you just revert back to, like, oh, this was the game plan. This is what we had. When we get to around the 40, we're going to take this shot play, no matter what the flow of the game is. Maybe they wanted to get to it in the first half and they couldn't, or whatever it might be. And you just went back to it because that was the plan, rather than reading the flow where you're moving the ball pretty well.
Yeah. Just felt like a bad time to dial one
up. Ravens dominate. I mean, this was like last year's Ravens team, man.
Yeah.
They have these performances where they are unstoppable offensively. I know they had blown a whole bunch of fourth quarter leads, at least 2 this year that they didn't completely blow it against the Cowboys, but they let them back in. They slowed this one down with that play on the trick play there. But this was old school Ravens. Second half collapse against the Raiders, and barely losing to the Chiefs, and it's not that different of a Ravens team from last year, even though they're sitting at 2-2.
Their offensive line in this game looked incredible. I mean, Roger Rosengarten, I think, had his first start, right? Almost got himself a touchdown. Couldn't secure the ball. Ends up going to Patrick Ricard instead.
I mean, that's everything working for the Ravens, by the way. A fumble into the end zone that Patrick Ricard picks up.
But, like, every member of that offensive line was great in this game. In pass protection, they gave up basically nothing. Buffalo's pass rush, which had been pretty good for the first few weeks, did nothing in this game. As a run blocking unit, obviously, it was pretty good as well. Hence, Derrick Henry coming up just short of 200 yards. That's another thing, by the way. 200 yards. He's literally on the doorstep. He's at 199, and they're like,
poor Mike Tirico's like, all right, 199 for Derrick Henry, and they're bad. Josh Johnson's back to pass.
Mike's got a little package all ready to go.
Yeah.
He breaks a tie with Adrian Peterson and Jim Brown. Nope, we're gonna pass instead. No 200 yards for Derrick.
A 1-yard pass from Josh Johnson. Why?
Could have just given Derrick the ball again. Got him over 200. Nope.
And Justice Hill is the leading receiver for the Ravens, 6 catches for 78 yards, including a touchdown. So that's the old school feel, or the last year feel at least, of this Ravens offense. You don't know who's going to do the damage, and they can do it in so many different ways, with shifty players, with speedy players, with power players, and then Lamar pulling it all together as a thrower, runner, and that two-way threat. Makes it really difficult to stop. I was lamenting not having enough of these Ravens-Bills matchups through the years. This was a little one-sided, but still would love to see it again in the playoffs.
Wanted to give a shout-out to Isaiah Likely. I know he didn't do a huge amount in the game, but he had a great block on Lamar Jackson's touchdown run. Absolutely crushed a guy on that side to just give Jackson wide open space to run into.
Anything else?
There was a tweet from Josh Dubow, our friend at the AP. The Bills had an NFL record stretch of 43 straight regular season games without losing by more than 6 points. And that ends, obviously, with this loss to the Ravens. The last time the Bills lost by more than 6 in the regular season was 41-15 to the Colts back in 2021.
Jonathan Taylor had the 4 touchdown game.
Yeah, they did lose by 17 to the Bengals in the playoffs, but that's insane. 43 straight games in the regular season without getting blown out, essentially. Came to an end in this game.
Yeah, them and the Chiefs, just in these Chiefs rarely get blown out. Bills hadn't been blown out for a while. Quite a stretch there by the Bills. An impressive job by the Ravens, obviously, 35-10 Sunday Night Football. We got a big show Wednesday. That's it for us today. We got doubleheader tonight.
Yep.
2 Monday games. Big show Wednesday. JT O'Sullivan breaking down the quarterbacks. Let us know if you guys have any questions or emails, right? You can hit us up at checkthemic@the33rdteam.com with email questions. We'll be live tonight, right after the games. Never know when we're going to go live. Maybe in between games. Never know. You got to hit the subscribe button on YouTube and hit the, the reminder, the bell, and do all that stuff. And be sure to download the Prize Picks app today. Shout out to Prize Picks for bringing you today's show. Use the code CheckTheMic. You get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code CheckTheMic on Prize Picks. $50 instantly when you play $5. Don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's all guaranteed. Prize Picks. Run your game. And if you run your game like I did, maybe you'll win some money.
Yeah.
Like I did last week. My Prize Picks lineup.
10x, in fact.
10x in my lineup last week. So join us tonight, YouTube, live after the doubleheader. Hit subscribe, YouTube, thumbs up, YouTube. Subscribe wherever you listen to the podcast. Tell your friends. And we'll see you again on Wednesday with more Check the Mic.